Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the new moon in the second decan of Taurus. We're going to be going over all of the mythological, practical considerations associated with the new moon in one of Venus's signs. We are going to take a look at its sextile to Saturn, and we're going to break it down through the lens of the decans, the special 10-degree division of each astrological sign. We are going to take it through the rising signs as well, and then we will have an I-Ching and an animal to guide us through this period of time as well. So, do me a favor. Let me know if you're here. Throw a comment in the chat box there if you're joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday afternoon and enjoying this beautiful early May season. Cookerzilla is stopping in and says, "Yellow from Mahomie Bay. What's up, my friend? Hope you are cooking up something good, my friend." We've got other people stopping in here. Tarja is stopping in, says, "Hi, Spencer." Tarja is stopping in from Finland. Hope you're doing well over there in the early evening hours, I think. And yeah, we're gonna go on a journey today. So it's nice to see all these familiar faces in the chat. And before we get rolling today, a few announcements, as we are apt to do here. So you all know, if you're a fan of the channel, that I am a professional astrologer, and I am also a practicing astrologer. And in addition to these live streams that I do each week, I also do consultations and readings. So you can find me over at spencermichaud.com, and you can sign up for a reading. If you want to do your natal chart, you want to do your transits, you want to ask a specific question, it's all available for you there. I also do tutoring as well. So find me at spencermichaud.com if you need some help and some guidance through some of these, some of the good times, some of the challenging times, and everything in between. I'm also having a Taurus season sale right now. If you enjoy the work that I do, and if you enjoy some of the breakdowns with the decans in particular, I have a webinar series at my website, spencermichaud.com, in the store, where you can get a 2.5 to 3 hour webinar breaking down all of the significations associated with each decan, associated with each tarot card that is syncretized with each decan. We go over mythological stories, we break down planetary assignments, all of those good things, fixed stars. So check that out over at my website, spencermichaud.com. Decans of Taurus is 20% off until the end of Taurus season. I also have a beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews, who has a magical business. It's called Third Coast Mojo. You can find her at Etsy. And she has a beautiful selection of offerings, especially for Taurus season and for May in particular. You can see here featured is a classic conjure formula called Come to Me, which utilizes some beautiful Venus elections. So if you're trying to attract all sorts of positive things into your life, check out Come to Me oil at Third Coast Mojo. If you would like to support the work that I'm doing here today, you can do one of two things. You can, first of all, you can just like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, it helps with the algorithm. But you can buy me a super chat with a little $sign in the YouTube chat box today. Or you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com to help me keep the lights on here, help support all of the equipment and time and research material, all of those things. It all goes to help support the work that I do here and create this weekly live stream / kind of television program, I guess you could call it, in the modern day equivalent. So yeah, check that out. Okay, friends, those are our announcements. I'm going to welcome a couple more friends here. Let's see some people stopping in. Stephen the Jupiterian says, "Hey there, hi Spencer, tuning in from California. Nice to see you, Stephen. Hope you're doing well, my friend." Andy H is here. Hello from rainy England. It's raining here too, Andrew. I'm happy you're stopping in, and we're just kind of feeding the flowers, getting all of the native pollinators that we planted in our yard in the last season are starting to grow and pop up. I'm really excited about all of the new plants that are coming in my yard. I thought half of them had died, but they are coming back, and that's a beautiful metaphor for things that we thought were lost to us coming back into our life. And gardening, I think, teaches us that. And we're trying to do things to help out the native bee population and the native insects and support the local wildlife. that is a way that you can create what's called a eucatastrophe, or a good catastrophe that helps provide an oasis for animals, insects, etc. In a time period where a lot of their habitats being destroyed. So little things that we can do every day that give us a sense of meaning and purpose, but also really help out to help the native populations in our respective areas. I love gardening. Tracy, what's up, Tracy? Tracy says, hello, lovely. It's nice to see you, Tracy. Hope you're doing well this afternoon. Lovely to see you in the chat. Laura Elizabeth is here, says, hi, Spencer from Vancouver. Beautiful spring day here. Taurus season feels so much calmer. Yeah, I love Taurus season. It's probably my favorite season. I love the flowering trees and the red buds and the dogwoods, and just seeing everything come back to life is really beautiful. Yeah, calmer. Usually it is. We've got a Pluto square that's squaring Venus and the Sun, and there's some, there's challenges out in the world right now too. So, but I think that being able to keep that centeredness and that peaceful center can help us navigate those with grace. Stephen says, so far May feels so much more chill, such a difference from the past few months. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all a matter of perspective. There's a lot of things, like I said, a lot of things going on in the world. But I think if it just depends on where you're at with everything, and where you are located in the world, and what you're putting your mind and your energy towards. Okay, so thank you, friends, for stopping in. I appreciate you being here today. So let's dive into it. Let's dive into our new moon in Taurus. I'm going to bring this to the stage, and we will check it out. So our new moon in Taurus, friends, is happening on May the 7th, which is next Tuesday, I believe, at 11:21 Eastern Daylight Time. Make the appropriate adjustment for your location. And we are going to be checking out this new moon in the second decan of Taurus, 18 degrees of Taurus. We are seeing the sun and the moon coming together, the sun infusing its light and purpose into the lunar body. Okay, so this is a really interesting way of thinking about the sun and the moon. The sun is a vehicle for vitality, or it is a creator of consciousness, or a vessel of consciousness. And the moon is that vessel or container for that light. So we have an alignment with a sense of purpose and the physical being that we are trying to bring into existence. In this case, we're trying to create healthy rhythms and routines. We're trying to create abundance. We're in a space of the zodiac that's associated with generosity, with sharing, and with trying to create fertility through getting into a rhythm, through understanding the balance between work and play, which I think is really important. I think sometimes when we are getting overwhelmed with some of the more global events that we see in the news, we have lots of challenging things going on in the world right now that we're all trying to navigate gracefully. It can be a little bit overwhelming, and we might forget to play sometimes. And I do think that play is really important. We want to work hard, and we want to acknowledge some of the challenging events that we're experiencing, but we also want to take time out to recharge the battery and become centered. And I hope that this is a place where you feel like that's possible for you, an oasis of sorts. We try not to shy completely away from the challenging experiences, but we also try to balance it out with sharing and expressing our joy and appreciation for one another as well, and our kindness. So this is sort of the embodiment of the moon in Taurus too. It has dignity by face, it has dignity by exaltation, and in this particular chart, I believe it has dignity by triplicity. So those are different powers that the moon is able to draw upon. Exaltation is when the planet is in a particular place of being an honored guest, somebody who has a lot of resources at their disposal. We have the face being a or the Decan as its own Decan ruler. It's often described as being a person who is creating their own good fortune in a foreign place. So being able to work at your own, I don't know if it's wealth creation or abundance creation, or like, I always think of these things in gardening terms. So being a good garden worker, being able to weed the fields, to plant the seeds when the time is appropriate. Appropriate timing is really associated with this area of the zodiac. And then also knowing when to just appreciate the beauty of the flower, appreciate the growth, to let nature take over the final, quote unquote work. I've been spending a lot of time, trying to center myself through just going out and appreciating and seeing things grow, and kind of tending to that garden and removing the weeds and things of that nature, watering and planting new things where they need to be planted. But it's one of those things where you can only do so much every day, and then you have to rest, and then you have to allow the world to keep spinning on its axis. You have to allow the light and the water and the rain to do the work that it is programmed in those plant cells to do. So we can take that metaphor and apply it to our own lives and do what we need to do to start creating abundance within our own lives, and to also understand that there's going to be some patience involved with that as well, where sometimes we do what we're capable of doing, and then we need to rest and allow the time and the earth to keep spinning, because it'll bring us change. So those are kind of some important bigger themes around this new moon. There's some other things that are coming up for me that I'm taking a look at here. It's sextile Saturn. So you can see here the new moon is going to be, let's make it green. I like green for Taurus. So there's the new moon, and it's making a positive sextile. It's separating, but it's within a few degrees of the sextile with Saturn. So this new moon, while we are trying to create fertility, establish healthy rhythms, we may also be in alignment with what is possible and what isn't. There may be a dream or a mindset or a belief that is being shown to be not quite everything we thought it was when we first entered into some kind of arrangement with it. And Saturn tends to bring endings and realism and sobriety to some of those beliefs and dreams, etc. An example just from the sporting world, like last night, my favorite basketball team, the Milwaukee Bucks, were eliminated from the playoffs, and their lead superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo was injured for the entirety of the first round of the playoffs, and he had some contacts with, I believe he has his own Saturn in that decan. So coming to terms with reality and seeing the death of a dream. When he first got together with Damian Lillard at the beginning of the season, there were high hopes, and that came kind of crashing back down to earth, and there might be just more adjustments that need to be made. So that's one lens to look at, where we may have a dream that we've been pursuing, and we have to make adjustments to be able to fit within the reality of our lives. And that's okay. That happens sometimes. Sometimes there are things out of our control that cause us to have to make adjustments to the dream. So I think that that's an important aspect of this as well. I do feel that, this has a lot of juice and dignity. So we have the host, Venus. Okay. So here's Venus, which is co-present with this new moon in Taurus. And that's a really positive place for the host of a new moon, to be. So in traditional Hellenistic astrology, we look at the relationship between a planet and the planet that is the steward of the sign or temple or country that it's moving through. Think of those signs not as we are this sign or we are this particular area. I think if we have to make those types of statements, we could say, well, we are represented more by the planets, and each planet is responsible for a different area of the zodiac that represents topics and has different themes involved in it. I like to think of these signs as countries at this point, landscapes. And when we have Venus, the steward of the Taurian landscape, in her own sign, it's like the Empress is there in her own country, able to provide all of the abundance and fertility and richness that is required in Taurus in that country. And this is not always what happens. Sometimes, like, let's say Venus is in her exile in Scorpio. She's in a land that's related to compost, to death, to recycling, to letting go of forms. And that makes for a little bit more of a challenging interaction. But here we have a new moon associated with abundance and fertility, and we have the host, Venus, having access to all of her resources. We also have Mars in Aries at this point as well, in its own home country, basically. So I think that this means one of two things to me. In our personal lives, this is a great time to begin a new routine. It's a great time to begin a new creative project, to be able to plant seeds for future fertility. It's a great time to get out in your garden and to start looking at the way that you're interacting with the natural world. It's a great time to start things that are not only in service of yourself, but are in service of helping others as well, and being giving and receiving. There's a generosity to this decan associated with the Six of Pentacles. You can see here. I'll show you this in more detail in a minute. You can see a figure that's giving alms to the poor. So there are themes of both receiving the generosities of a benefactor and also being able to share our abundance with others. T. Susan Chang makes a really great point in her book, 36 Secrets, about sixes in general, which are associated with a sephira in the Kabbalistic tree of life called Tiferet. And it's a very central place. It's associated with the sun, centrality, and purpose. The sun brings us a sense of purpose. So she talks about this, the purpose of each elemental journey. And she talks about the purpose of ambitions, to be able to, achieve some kind of belief system, and eventually we receive accolades for it with like the Six of Wands. The purpose of the swords, like being able to solve a problem and move from one state to the next. The purpose of the Six of Cups, being able to share and receive emotions and love with one another. Then here, the purpose of material resources is to make our own and others' lives better. To be able to share our abundance, to grow and be able to not just hoard our wealth, but to be able to have it move through us. Like money or abundance or wealth or food is a resource that keeps moving. It's an energy force, right? And when we get too tightly fisted with it, it blocks its flow. So this is another opportunity to open up to the flow of abundance. Now with Mars in its own sign, it's not really aspecting the new moon, but I do think it speaks to an ability to move forward under our own power in a way that we haven't been able to in the past, or we may have the desire to do so. One little, I guess, thing to watch out for with this new moon cycle is we do have the Mars conjoining the North Node shortly after this. That I believe that happens on the 19th. So there may be an increase in our desires to move under our own power and to get what we want, and we have to be careful about moving too aggressively towards what we want, even if it's in service of the good, right? We're seeing a lot of experiences out in the world right now with many people peacefully protesting at universities across the United States, and many of those protests have been very peaceful, and people are asking for practical things to help support the people that are suffering in the Middle East. But you also have some people who are bad actors that are creating microcosms of the violence that we see in the Middle East in those college campuses. So it's how do you navigate your belief systems, your ability to create abundance and peace in a way that can be in alignment with your integrity, alignment with your belief system, and hopefully be able to get people on board with your vision, you know? Um, so I'm not really seeing any other major factors in this particular new moon. I mean, we do have Jupiter and Uranus co-present with the new moon. Jupiter will be shortly after this new moon leaving Taurus and moving into its exile in Gemini. We just recently had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the third decan of Taurus, maybe helping us to get some insight into what could be a remedy for a long-standing problem. I think that, in my own personal life, I've been going through some major dietary shifts, realizing that I have some dietary sensitivities, and eliminating some of those things from my diet has really shifted my energy levels and shifted my, my whole digestive system. And it's helping remedy something I've been living with, a problem I've been living with for a long time. And that can be applied to many different topics within your own life. Maybe there's others of you who are going through similar journeys or going through similar journeys to remedy something that's been a problem for a long time within your life. So that is another factor. As we see here, in addition to Jupiter separating from Uranus, it's also out of what is called the malefic enclosure that the aspect rays of Saturn and Mars were casting on either side of Jupiter. So that's a traditional kind of condition, also called besiegement, where the two malefic planets, Mars and Saturn, that generally humanity is associated with challenging things and events, are kind of holding the good things that a planet like Jupiter, or previously earlier this year Venus, what they represent, like the ability to create peace and harmony with Venus, and the ability to kind of I think Jupiter's also a peacemaker. So this might be a moment where now the sun is starting to break this up. After the sun makes its sextile with Saturn, it moves in between the rays of Saturn and the rays of Mars that are casting on either side. So you can see this here. Let's just make it red. So we've got Saturn casting its ray on this side, and Mars is casting its ray on the other side of Jupiter. So now the sun's going to start breaking that up. And I think that that's actually really positive, because I think a lot of the changes that we've been trying to make have maybe been held in check by some other small details. Like in my own example that I gave earlier, I've been experimenting with different foods that create, digestive upset or not. And I have a feeling by this time I will have experimented with a decent amount of things to have a general idea and to know what I can and what I can't eat. So there could be something in your life where you've been experimenting and you've been taking a process approach to getting out of the challenging environment that these long-standing challenges have brought to you. And you may really start to see some movement with this new moon in Taurus. So I've been looking forward to this new moon for quite some time. I think there's a lot of things to like about it. There's a lot of positives to it. I think that is with the caveat of saying that as long as we're able to stay centered when we feel the rising passions of Mars conjoining the North Node, I think that we can navigate this lunar cycle gracefully. If we fall prey to the influence of the dragon's head, the North Node, Rahu, who hungers for immortality, who is just an unsatiable severed head from a serpent's body, that could lead us into some problems. That could lead us into some challenges. So we really do have to ask ourselves, how do we maintain our composure even when we're, in conflict situations? I think that's the key. And we do have Jupiter at this new moon conjoining the fixed star called Algol. So that's another thing to think about. Algol is the blinking eye in the constellation of the severed head of Medusa. Um, so, or Perseus, I guess, might be the actual constellation. So there is a potential for an expansion of um, deep passion that arises to the surface, and a lot of it with feelings of protectiveness. Algol is a fixed star that um, is very protective of people who have experienced trauma. And if we look at it from its most positive way, it can be utilized for great and deep protection. In its more negative form, it can also represent losing our composure, losing our head. The Chinese astrologers called it piled up corpses, so there's also some negative connotations associated with it as well. So every position in the zodiac has positive and negative possibilities associated with it. And again, remember, the third decan of Taurus, which Jupiter and Uranus are moving through, can really speak towards remedying a past mistake. So reform and biting through the challenges and the blockages to creating peace, to creating change, might be part of this new moon as well. Okay. Finally, we have a first aspect of the moon that traditional astrologers would like to look at. And the first aspect of the moon here comes when it is released from what is called the bond. And that's when the sun and the moon are together, or the moon is within 15 degrees, okay, of that conjunction or of the opposition in a full moon. So here we see the moon at 6 degrees of Gemini, has escaped the bond, the 15-degree arc of separation, and it sextiles Mars. So we may have a lot of choices that come to us after this new moon. After the moon escapes the bond, we get an infusion of purpose. And then when it escapes the bond, this is where we are able to start taking action on that infusion of purpose, where we can say, oh, well, we're going to explore our options with the moon in the first degrees of Gemini. We may really want to take action. And there's actually a harmonious sextile between exploring our options and just taking, action without necessarily overthinking it. The ideas that we have may fuel our fire of action as well. So that's something else to think about here as well, is that potentially we could be able to take action in a lot of different directions to create fertility and abundance. Now, if we just preview what this is going to be moving towards, is we're going to be seeing the sun move into Gemini, okay? And at the full moon, it will be opposing the moon in Sagittarius. So again, that first 10-degree section of Gemini is related to an explosion of options, an increase of the amount of paths and ambiguities that we have, so much so that it might paralyze us. And the moon in the first 10 degrees of Sagittarius is all about movement. It's about speed. It's about motion. So we're going to have to kind of figure out which of these paths is most important to us and how to start moving forward with it at the full moon of this new moon lunar cycle. And you can also see this is coinciding with a Venus-Jupiter conjunction at the full moon. So that's pretty cool. I think that might be a nice moment potentially for remedying something that has fallen into disrepair. And I think as long as we're being realistic about what we can handle, we will be able to take action on it with grace. Okay, I'm going to check back in on the chat here. See if we have some comments coming in. Just have some more friends hanging out. Let's see. Ravana's here. Says, hi, Spencer. Happy to be here. Tuning in from Berkeley. Nice to see you, Ravana. Hope everything's going well out west for you. Taria says, the new moon will be on my IC. Nice. So maybe having some really interesting, nice moments in your home, potentially, or in your domestic front, or in private. Robin is here. What's up, Robin? Says hi, Spencer. Robin from Healdsburg, California. Looking forward to Taurus II. It's one of my favorite decans, Robin. And I guess I'm partial because my moon is in that decan natally, and it's just a comfortable space for me. And the way that I've been able to hopefully utilize the influence of that planet is to just take my time. Slow and steady wins the race. I try not to get too high. I try not to get too low. I have my moments of like, getting upset, and even a Taurus can lose their temper, and sometimes it's not pretty. But I think that eventually the way that I stay grounded and centered is to just try to stay connected to the earth and its natural rhythms, and not have too many expectations about trying to force things. I think that's one of the things that planet placement has taught me, is that whenever I get impatient and try to rush something, it ends up not working out the way that I had hoped. So hopefully we're modeling that here, and that will be good advice for all of you for the new moon. Steven says, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened in my 6th house brought unexpected household pests. I had mice. Oh my goodness. So Steven, you had to remedy some kind of thing that had fallen into disrepair. Sorry to hear that, and hopefully it's going well for you. Oh, Tarya has ants. Okay. Oh, man. Steven says, my partner and I transformed our guest bedroom into an office. Oh, good. All right, nice. Get in the home office. All right. Let's see. Robin says, I'm doing an elimination diet as well. Very cool, Robin. Well, good luck to you, and we'll compare notes, right? And see how it's working out. I think everybody has a different body and a different set of digestive challenges. So a lot of the times what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else, but there is definitely certain types of digestive challenges that can, run across the board. I think what I'm discovering is that I'm not actually super sensitive to gluten in particular. It's actually more of a sugar called fructan, which is found mostly in garlic and onions and in some bread. But I actually can tolerate sourdough bread quite a bit better than regular bread because it doesn't have as much fructan. So I've been eliminating things that have fructan, and it's been a total game changer, friends. I have not digested food this well in many, many years, and it's kind of remarkable, and I'm very grateful for that information. Let's see. Ravana says, do you see this new moon in some way tying back into the eclipse cycle in Scorpio and Taurus that ended? That was connected to an intense relationship ending for me, and this new moon is on my DC at 16 degrees. Well, I think in particular for you, Ravana, the answer would be yes, because the eclipse cycle for you is in angular houses related to relationships and related to your own personal needs, your body, your character. So the endings that took place within that could have led to this moment where you're maybe seeing a new start for your relationships. Maybe you're ready to date again or something like that. I don't know where you're at in that cycle, but maybe there's a new person coming into your life potentially, or maybe you're just feeling more comfortable in your relationships in general with the public, or you've reinvented yourself to a certain degree to be able to relate to the public in a different way as a single person rather than as a married person. And I know that we take on identity shifts with that, so that could be part of this as well. But yes, when we have like regular moons in an area where eclipses were, I think they're echoes. I think they're reverberations. Just like when you throw a stone into the water, you have the initial kerbloosh, right, of the stone, but then you have those the ripples that eddy out from that one singular event. And I think that astrology is a lot like that. So that maybe the eclipse was the stone hitting the water, and maybe this moon is one of the echoing ripples. Steven says, Venus and Jupiter conjunction also sextiling Neptune. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So maybe we have to make sure we're being realistic about the changes that we're making as well. Maybe we're able to transcend some of our physical needs potentially. What's up, Luna Storm? Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Robin says, the new moon is opposite my north node. Oh my goodness. So on the south node, right? So this might be a new time to release some things in your life. There could be, to as you were just saying, it fits, right? We are both kind of trying this elimination diet, and maybe there's some things that by removing them, you might bring yourself more happiness and joy, and get to know the things that you can eat. I think that's what I'm really enjoying, is some of the things I thought were creating problems actually were just mixed in. Like my partner, bless her beautiful cooking soul, she's an amazing chef, but she loved to cook with garlic, like almost every meal. And the realization of that being a problem for me has been a huge game changer. It's really helped me enjoy my meals so much more. So sometimes when we eliminate a problem, it actually can bring us an appreciation and a gratitude for that which we do have in our life. What's up, Don? Hey, all driving to carpool. Hope everyone's doing well. Nice to see you, Don. Hope you're doing well. Robin says, I'll look into fructan. I can't have onions and garlic either. Yeah, that's the substance in those two foods that gives a lot of people problems. And a lot of times we mistake that as a gluten allergy, but it's actually fructan. But again, I'm not a doctor. Your results may vary. There are people that have legitimate, like celiacs and gluten intolerance and things like that. Everybody is different. You just have to kind of, when you're doing something like this, I'm doing a low FODMAP diet where you're just trying to understand which foods do affect you and which ones don't. Also, by the way, Robin, I eliminated, for the time being, apples and honey are another one that kind of can trigger those types of things. So, like I said, just see what works for you, though. Okay. Yeah, Don says, I eat garlic and honey every day to repair my stomach biome. You know, Don, not everyone has a problem with it. You know, objectively, garlic and honey are really good for you. You know, like garlic is great for your heart and for your circulation and your blood. It's great for your immune system. Honey is a great antibacterial. I'm not thrilled that I can't eat those things. I just, you know, it's just something that irritates my particular genetic digestive system. So this is not an anti-garlic, anti-honey, anti-onion podcast. They're delicious, and in many cases very healthy. So hopefully I'll clear that up. But yeah, if it works for you, just keep doing what works for you. Yeah, thank you, Ravana. Appreciate it and happy to be of service to you. Okay, friends, so that is our new moon in Taurus kind of big overview. And let's take a look at the decans. So this is the decans of Taurus. And we're really looking at so this is Decans of Taurus webinar that's on sale right now if you want to support the channel and get a 2.5 to 3 hour, webinar of me talking about these particular 10-degree sections and all the associations with them in depth. But we're looking at the sun and the moon in Taurus too here, right? I guess I could change this. It's the sun and the moon. Hold on, I'll edit it real quick. Sun and moon in Taurus too. There we go, that's more accurate. So again, here we see the Six of Pentacles, and Book T calls it the Lord of Material Success, and the Book of Thoth calls it the Lord of Success. So it's all of these sixes and all of the decans associated with Tiferet generally are thought of as fairly positive. So these are nice places. These are the middle of fixed signs, and it is a very fixed place. That's the only negative thing. These are stable places, for better or for worse. Sometimes when we are too stable, we have trouble changing, but most of the time, human beings enjoy stability. Again, we're in a time of change right now, so we don't want to get too fixated, pardon the pun, on things being the way that they always have been or not changing. But I do think that there are little moments of oasis when we can just enjoy the stability of the season. So generosity and altruism are associated with this area of the zodiac, establishing a consistent rhythm. Tiferet and Asya, the balance of body and spirit. Procreative unions. Austin Coppock calls this decan a linga yoni in his first edition of 36 faces, which is a fertility stone. And he likens this to like being able to inseminate the fields, right? The fields have been warmed up by the sun and have created an environment for fertility. There's microbes that heat up in the sun that support fertility, just like there's microbes that heat up in the fall to support decay and to support everything kind of returning back to the earth and breakdown of form, fermentation. So we have fructification and fermentation are these this similar processes but opposite ends of the spectrum. So this gives us a moment, a kairos moment, as T. Susan Chang describes in her book, where the moment is right to plant our seeds. As a gardener, you understand that yes, you can plant something at the end of the fall, but it's not gonna bloom the same way as if you planted it in the middle of spring, as we are now. So procreative unions, appreciating the present moment. That's one of the things I love about my Taurus friends, and just the Taurus part of myself is we are sometimes can be very easily pleased. I think that simplifying your life is important, and I think that there are simple pleasures in life that we often miss. I can be really happy just sitting in my backyard in a chair, watching the birds fly around and breathing in the air and seeing the sun, through the dappled leaves, casting shadows, seeing just flowers grow into their full, beautiful, fragrant forms. Those are beautiful things to me, and I don't want for much else if I have those nice moments, if I have, if my belly's full and I've got some good sleep, and that's sort of the gift of Taurus is simple pleasures. So appreciate that moment. This might be a moment to just appreciate the beauty around you. Slow and steady manifestation. This is another thing that Taurus is really great at, and they receive criticism for this sometimes too, because when we go to extremes, there's always negative things at the extremes of anything. The ability to just say, I'm going to move at my own pace. No one's going to rush me, and I'm just going to do the amount of work that I need to do for the day, and then I'm going to relax. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I posted a story today that was from a Stoic account on Instagram, and there was a doctor that was speaking towards just what he would do differently at the end of his life. And he said, one of the things I would do differently is I would take the time to just slow down and appreciate time with my family and not feel like I had to, this was the key moment, not feel like I had to justify my existence all the time. I think that's one thing that we try to do a lot in a modern society, is especially a utilitarian one like the West, is we always feel like we have to justify our experience and say, oh, this is the value we're providing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've got ancient religious work ethics infused. I'm trying to remember the word. Protestant work ethic infused throughout society, where it's almost like a sin to relax. And I don't necessarily agree with that. And I think that we don't need to prove that we deserve to be, that we deserve to, be loved. I think that's the other thing too, is we don't have to exchange our labor for love and appreciation, etc. We deserve it just by the fact that we exist. I think that's another thing that Taurus can teach us, is that you just deserve love just by who you are and just by existing. On the flip side of that, let's look at this from another perspective, another lens, another angle. Sometimes it can be hard to get moving when we have a lot of Taurus influencing us. And this is why Mars has challenges in Taurus. Mars is all about getting moving. It says, hey, get moving. Let's do this. Let's sever and separate. Let's take action. And oftentimes, like Mars and Taurus, which isn't a part of this new moon, but I'm just showing you the contrast. Sometimes Mars and Taurus natives have difficulty getting moving. Like there's the problem of inertia. Consequently, sometimes those same natives have difficulty stopping when they get started. So those are some challenges with Taurus. Is sometimes it's hard to get moving because we're just kind of operating on autopilot. One of the things that I think that is a realization I've had about Taurus is that since it is ruled by Venus, and see if you can follow my logic here. Venus is part of the lunar sect. The lunar sect often is related to instinctual knowledge that arises from within, and that where we're just operating without necessarily conscious knowledge of why and how we're doing it. So a lot of times, if you have a lot of Taurus in your life, you may be just going through the routines of your day, the script of your day, and you do what you always did. I witnessed my Taurus rising father, who also has Mars in Taurus, by the way. I've witnessed him just go through his routine, same routine, every day for as long as I've known him, which at this point is 40 plus years. And there's some stability and security within that. It was a stark contrast to my Gemini mother, who was very different from day to day. And to be honest with you, my Taurus rising dad, was able to provide stability for me when my Gemini mother was not. And I've come to appreciate that stability. I've taken him to task for it at various times, as people have taken me to task for my own, my own lack of desire of getting riled up, I guess, is what I will say. My dad doesn't like getting riled up either. He just is like, all right, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I think there's a beauty in that. But there's also danger in that, because we can get stuck in ruts. We can get stuck in routines that maybe aren't healthy for us. So one of the things I think is really important with Taurus energy, and especially at a Taurus new moon, and especially in this decan, I think it's really important to understand what you're committing to. One of the things that the reason why I just do not commit to things, or the reason why Taurus types in general, their first answer is usually no, because they know that once they commit to something, it becomes ingrained in their body, and they just do it without thinking. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be real careful, because it can be really hard to break a habit once it begins. So a lot of times when we have Taurus energy influencing us, whatever we start becomes a habit. Like, for example, these live streams have become a habit. I've been doing these consistently for over 6 years now. I show up every week. I do the same thing. I don't rush it. And it's just a part of me. Breaking that routine would be very difficult at this point. So I think you have to be careful about what you commit to at the new moon, and make sure that it's something that you want to sustain over time, okay? Something that you want to sustain, and something that is good for you over the long term. We've all had habits begin in our life that weren't good for us, that maybe took some real work to break those cycles. And a lot of them were trauma responses. Sometimes when we've experienced trauma in our life, we tend to self-medicate, or we tend to, turn to things that give us temporary relief, but have long-term consequences. So be careful of that in any Taurus energy like this. So let's answer some questions, and then we've got some really nice comments I want to address. So what seeds are you sowing? Okay, that's what we're asking with the latest reflection. What seeds do you want to sow? Is it good for you long term? If it becomes a part of your life, your everyday life, is that what you want your life to look like? So that's a thing to ask yourself. What routines will support your growth rather than block or hinder them? Taking my life as an example, I have a last quarter Taurus moon, or it's close to the balsamic phase, but it's not quite there. And really, what has been described to me with that moon is it's more about how do you eliminate the bad habits rather than starting the new good ones. And that's proven to be true for me. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what is getting in the way of manifestation. and then having the courage to make those changes. So think about that, like as far as like when you're dealing with a Taurus moon, like let's say you have it in a waxing phase, it's about incorporating new things in, but you can utilize a waning Taurus moon to eliminate the bad habits that are blocking manifestation. Can you work with the natural cycles to create fertility? Really important. We have to have humility if we want to work with nature, because nature has its own agenda that we don't always have control over. We tend to think that we do from this very human-centric mindset that has permeated our existence for a long time now. But there are different ways to think about the world that aren't human-centric. I tend to fall, hopefully, on that spectrum a little bit more. I try to see it holistically. And I think that it's an important exercise to do so, to decentralize human dominance, I guess, on some level, and start thinking in a more of a global ecological fashion. So working with nature and having humility to do so. And what virtues can be practiced over time that lead to success? Okay, so that's another thing to consider. The daimon with this decan is called the Horai, which is related to the goddesses of the seasons, that we're all about the right timing. And you practice these positive virtues over time, they become habits, they become character. What tangible achievements have you manifested? That's important to take stock of what you're doing as well. Take stock of who you are and where you've been, and that can help you build the confidence to keep going and to create new successes. Again, though, part of the Taurus energy is just allowing yourself to be. You don't have to prove who you are or what your value is to anybody to deserve to be loved and appreciated and respected. And then finally, how can you share your abundance? I think this is really the fertility key. I was about to say the skeleton key, but that doesn't quite fit. The fertility key. The fertility key in Taurus 2 is being open and sharing and generous. I have learned that my life works better when I'm not holding on so tightly to material security, etc. That when I let not only resources but knowledge flow through me, and not hold on so tightly to it. And I think that's a really great way to think about this. If you're taking actions to create abundance in your life, how can you, give a portion back to the earth? How can you give a portion back to your community? How can you, give a portion back to, whoever's in need? I mean, that's really the point of resources, according to T. Susan Chang's book, 36 Secrets. And I tend to agree with that. How can you make not only your own life more comfortable? Because I do think Taurus is definitely about personal comfort, but how can you make others' lives more comfortable as well? All right. We got some nice comments here. I'm going to check in here. Let's see. Devin, who is a Taurus sun, says, yes, I'm a hard worker, but my Venus in Taurus 2 doesn't let me shift gears. When I set my mind that the work is done, it's done. Yeah, right? Yeah, sometimes like I said, it becomes a habit. If being a hard worker is ingrained into your habitual day-to-day, that's just kind of part of your, coding at this point, right? But I do think that with that Venus in Taurus 2, Devin, allowing yourself some of the pleasures of life is okay. And I think you do. Like you create some really beautiful food and charcuterie and things of that nature, and art, I'm assuming, as well. And I'm sure that you're a gardener of some sort. So yeah, the balance is the key. Remember, Tiferet, the Sephira in the Kabbalistic tree of life, is in the very center of the tree. And this is a 10-degree section associated with balance. I'm a huge proponent of staying centered and balanced. Bettina, oh, what's up, Bettina? I haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you, friend. Says, yes, it's true. I can't quite start things. And then when I start, I can't stop them. See, I'm a Taurus, right? Yes, exactly. Yes. Hope you're doing well, Bettina. I wish you well. Bisayong, Texas is here. Says, Taurus here, checking in. Nice to see you, friend. Welcome to the channel. Hope that you're doing well. And glad that you're here for Taurus new moon. Stephen is a Saturn in Taurus 1. Yeah, the difference with the moon and the sun in Taurus, especially and Saturn in Taurus is, I think that Saturn has a binding energy. It binds us to some of the themes. Sometimes it denies some of those themes early in life, and we have to work very hard to bring it to fruition. So, like with Saturn in Taurus 1, you might be bound to maybe even experiencing some lack as a young person, or a lack of planning, and you have to work on creating a plan to create future abundance. If, like, say, Saturn's in Taurus 2, the decan we're discussing here today, you might be bound to work really hard. It might be really difficult to shift gears to play. Using my sports metaphor again, the recently fired defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, Joe Barry, is Saturn in Taurus 2. And one of the main criticisms of him is that he was unable to make adjustments to different teams that he was playing. He had his system, and he was going to play that same exact system no matter who he was playing, and it got him in a lot of trouble, and it ultimately got him fired. So, like, sometimes flexibility is something to learn within that as well. Devin says, also, my Taurus sun likes to be seen as a hard worker, but my Scorpio moon may put my body at an unneeded risk. Yeah, and that's a really interesting balance to strike, right? To be able to do the physical things that Taurus, Taurus is the symbol is a bull. I mean, a lot of times in the past, bulls were used to carry very heavy loads and to plow fields. They're strong, they're consistent. But that Scorpio moon, it might make understanding the limits of the body might be important to have a healthy, future. You'll find it one day at a time. Steven says the best time to manifest. Yeah, there's some good manifestation energy with this new moon for sure. Dawn says, Saturn in Taurus here. I find beauty in everything, but I have a hard time letting things go, even when they hurt. Yeah, Dawn, I mean, that's what we were just talking about with Saturn in Taurus, is being able to have endings when it comes to material things, physical form. Saturn's going to bring us endings in Taurus, right? Saturn's going to bring us the end of habits, or the need to be realistic about our habits. It's going to bring ending to some material things in our life. I have Saturn in Virgo, and it's similar lessons there as well. Saturn in Virgo 3, is coming to terms with with form decay. I think anytime we have Saturn in an Earth sign, we may have to come to terms with the fact that material existence is impermanent, and it causes us to have a shift potentially in our thinking. Okay. All right, we've got more Saturn and Tauruses checking in. Kate Louise is here, says, yay, I made it to another live stream. Nice to see you, Kate. I'm glad that you made it too. Nice to see you, friend. Oh, Bettina, I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you're doing well over there, Bettina. Devin says, yes, to be clear, I meant that when I shift to Venus mode, i.e. relaxing, I can't get myself back into work mode. Oh, that's good. That's good clarification, right? Yeah, I often have a similar challenge, Devin, as a Taurus moon. There will be times where I will be horizontal on the couch, just laying around, like just staring off into space, reading a book, just indulging in whatever, pleasure of the day is. And getting back into work mode is tough. I totally relate to that. So that's where the harmony and the balance comes in, right? Devin says, I noticed the moon gets trapped in a malefic enclosure by the beams after it leaves from under the rays of the sun. Let me see. I was mentioning that Jupiter is getting released from the rays right as the sun and the moon are breaking up the malefic enclosure of Jupiter. But we could probably take a look at this too. So you look at this is the full moon. I think the moon is going to be, let's take a look here. So what Devin is referring to is once the moon conjoins Jupiter, once it passes, then it is within that same malefic enclosure that Jupiter was falling under. So where the sun, or the Saturn is on this side of the moon, and then Mars is on this side. Now, fortunately, the moon is a very fast-moving planet. So once the moon hits Mars, it will be released from that condition. So here we have May 9th. You know, it's maybe one day at the most, which I think is good news, because you don't want to be in that position very long. So let's say we have so let's take a look at this. So you have the conjunction with Jupiter, where that condition might begin, and then it's going to move all the way through Gemini for a few hours. We get to May 9th, and then it sextiles Mars, and then it's out, right? And then it's not in that condition anymore. Oh, well, no, never mind. So here's an interesting thing. Oh, sorry. Good point, Devin. There we go. Sorry, I was clicking things around and you couldn't see it. Thanks for that catch. So what I was pointing out is that we have the moon coming together with Jupiter, and that begins that same condition that we were talking about that Jupiter was in. Okay, with Mars so Saturn on one side and then Mars on the other. Okay, right here. And then we click through and we see that once we get to Gemini and the sextile with Mars, maybe I'm not thinking about that exactly correctly. Because what I'm noticing is once it clicks into Gemini and the sextile with Mars, then Saturn is on the other side. So maybe it lasts a little bit longer than I originally thought. Because here you can see now Mars is on this side, and now Saturn's on this side. So I guess we're not really in the clear until the moon moves to 17 degrees of Gemini. So that's when. So this is good. This is why there we go. So here's the sextile, May 10th. So we may have a bumpy patch after this full moon, this new moon in Taurus between the 8th and the 10th, where we're trying to manifest, but it's held in check, held in abeyance. It's not super long, so I think that's positive. But this is life, right? This is life. We're going to have setbacks when we're trying to manifest, when we're trying to, make a project move forward. We come across challenges that test our resiliency. Even with activities that we enjoy. Like last year, when I was installing the native pollinator habitat, there was a lot of things that were coming up that delayed that process to the point where we didn't even get it in the ground until October. Okay, and there was a lot of ups and downs with it, but eventually it worked, and now we're reaping the benefits of it by the beauty that it has created within our yard. And I go out every morning and just admire it. I just love it so much, and I love all the bees and the insects that are visiting, the birds. It's brought a lot of joy into my life, but I had to be resilient to make it work. There was a lot of digging, a lot of tough manual labor, and I'm more of a mental labor type of person. I will admit, I have a lot of endurance for mental labor, as is demonstrated every Friday here. But physical labor, I get tired pretty quickly, so I have to pace myself. But again, this is life. There's going to be things where we have to be patient, and where we have to cross more T's and dot more I's in the journey along to abundance. Stephen says, I think a Taurus must have said, I can forgive but cannot forget. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a couple signs like that, Cancer included. Scorpio. All these sticky water signs have that ability, but Taurus definitely has it on a visceral, physical level. They have sense memories in their bodies that are very difficult to overcome sometimes. And that's especially true if there's trauma. If you're a Taurus out there type and you've had physical trauma in your life, really difficult to overcome that. It is possible. It's just something that is deeply ingrained into your nervous system. Julian says, hi, Spencer. What's up, Julian? Nice to see you, friend. Have you talked about Menkar at 14 degrees Taurus? If so, I'll go back and replay later. Curious about that. No, we haven't necessarily talked about Menkar with this new moon. Julian, I would consider Menkar far enough off of the new moon that I probably would not consider its influence. I usually use roughly about a 1 degree arc or orb of influence for fixed stars, depending on their brightness. Now, I will say that sometimes a fixed star can influence an entire decan. So if you want to talk about it from that regard, basically Menkar is a whale. It's in the constellation Cetus, the whale, and ancient whales were not thought of like Shamu at SeaWorld or whatever. They were thought of as like monsters of the deep. And Menkar is a fixed star that is related to being in alignment with the public and with, I talk about this in my Decans webinar. I'll be generous today and I'll show you a little bit about this. So here's Menkar. Cetus the whale, the mouth of the whale, a sea monster. Okay, see it's in the mouth there. It is the devourer of Andromeda. It's related to the collective unconscious, unseen forces arising from the depths, sensitivity to public emotions, tapping into the collective flow. So for better or for worse, all right? So I have the moon pretty close to this, and I have the midheaven and the moon pretty close to this fixed star, Julene. And oftentimes my instincts will be in alignment with some part of the collective flow, for better or for worse. Like I'll think of somebody who's in the news and I didn't know why, or I'll get obsessed with learning about a musician who's come up in the news or something like that. So there may be things that are where we're tapping into a mycelium of understanding, a mycelial network of understanding. The thing to be careful of, though, is, like I said, that can be good. Like it's a zeitgeist tapping into. It can also be negative. We can be, I think oftentimes, like, this is one of the reasons I've had to work so very hard to maintain my emotional equilibrium, is that there will be times where I'll tap into collective suffering, and that will be very, very difficult for me to live out my day-to-day existence while feeling the collective suffering. And I just have to be very careful about my boundaries, emotional boundaries with that. And if you have something at 14 Taurus, you may have to be, very careful about your own emotional boundaries and how much you get tapped into the collective. So the delicate balance of acknowledging our collective challenges and participating in the solutions versus keeping your own counsel and wisdom and energy is part of the lesson of learning that. And I do want to show all of you something that I thought was really interesting too. So let me go back to our screen here as we talk about Menkar. T. Susan Chang is a really interesting way of thinking about Taurus, where she incorporates both the sign ruler, the Hierophant. This is the sign ruler of Taurus, or the syncretized major arcana card of Taurus, and the syncretized minor arcana card of the moon, which is the face ruler. This is the high priestess. We'll see if we can get it to focus. There we go. So we're seeing the trying to balance out the high priestess and the Hierophant here. Okay. Now those two cards are interesting because they are related to wisdom that is revealed with the Hierophant and wisdom that arises from within with the high priestess, or that is veiled. She talks about the veiling of wisdom. So again, it's balancing out orthodox versus exoteric versus esoteric wisdom. Wisdom that we learn from an external source versus wisdom that arises from within us and our own intuitive faculties. And I think you can also think about this in the dichotomy of the ninth house versus the third house. A lot of the times we'll associate the ninth house with religious orthodoxy, with wisdom that is learned at a higher institution, that where there is some sort of, I guess you could call it a gatekeeper, like the Hierophant. Whereas the wisdom of the third house, related to the joy of the moon, where the joy of the sun is in the ninth house, is related to our own inner knowing, our own personal rituals. It was also associated with heretics who would challenge the church and say, no, this isn't right. I've had a visceral experience with the divine, and it doesn't match up with your rules, quote unquote. So this may be another opportunity for us to balance out, our externalized wisdom and teaching and revealing the mysteries versus, keeping some things to ourselves and keeping our own counsel. I think a healthy Taurus is one that is able to keep some of their own counsel at various times, sometimes much to the chagrin of the people in their life. I feel this sometimes. It's very different than that Scorpio energy, which a lot of Scorpio energy is about merging emotionally with others and being able to have like a very deeply enmeshed relationship, especially in the second decan of Scorpio, where, Austin Coppock talks about mutual distillation in that decan, where we're exchanging, both resources, but also poisons. And we have to be careful of that, these circuits of exchange. Not true with Taurus. Taurus is kind of almost, it can be very complete unto itself. And that can frustrate people that don't feel the same way, that are dependent on others in a different way. Not to say Taurus can't be dependent. They absolutely can. But I do think that there is an ability to keep your own space and to, utilize that sense of just like, all right, I'm just going to go through my day. I don't need to do anything externally. I don't need to get my needs met necessarily externally from other sources. And some would call that confidence. Some would call that stubbornness. Like it can be both. All right. So Julian, I hope that helps with Menkar as part of this. Kate Louise says, Taurus II is my DC. This new moon will trine my Capricorn moon at 18 degrees. Oh my goodness. So Taurus II, Kate, this might be another new moon where you're having some new relationship, blessings. I was going to say challenges, but I don't want to put that on you, but maybe this new relationship blessings, maybe new abundance for you and a partner, or, just your relationship with the public as well could be a seventh house signification. And I'll break that down as I take the new moon through the rising signs. Luna Storm says, I just looked at all the work I have to do in my garden. I think I'll take the dog for a walk instead. Hey, if that's what brings you joy, the work isn't going to go away. But if you and the dog are enjoying the butterflies and the flowers and the bees and getting outside, more power to the two of you. Okay. Let's see. Dawn says, my Taurus rising daughter with a Scorpio moon has a very hard time letting things go when folks hurt her. Yeah, as many of us do. I don't think you have to have a Scorpio moon to hold on to hurts, but definitely I think that moon, being in a Mars ruled sign, is that Mars in Scorpio is really about defending a dying life force. So when we have experienced trauma, when we've experienced physical pain, those instincts kick in. Those self-protective defensive instincts can kick in, and they can be very hard to deprogram from the body in particular. It takes a lot of therapy, it takes a lot of self-care. It is possible, but it's a journey, right? And I think sometimes when we're born with some of these challenging placements, that might be part of the journey, is learning how to navigate some of those frankly darker sides of life. We're all a mixture of the dark and the light, and trying to find that harmony that we see in the yin-yang symbol, There's always a little bit of dark within the light, and there's always a little bit of light within the darkness, or the seed of each within the other, and they're constantly flowing into one another. And that can be part of the journey that we go through when we're dealing with those challenging placements. Devin says, how would you describe a Menkar-Venus conjunction? Oh, Devin. Well, I don't have one, so I can't speak from experience, but I think I would do one of two things if you're trying to break that down. I would look at, first of all, the houses that Venus is hosting. Because in my example, I have the moon and the midheaven conjunct on Menkar. So oftentimes I will, it's very visible. It's very public what I'm going through when I'm absorbing the zeitgeist, right? I think for you with Venus, just off the top of my head, it rules your first and your eighth house. So there might be something where you are able to tune into collective vibes personally within your body. It could also be related to how you share resources with someone. So maybe you're tuned into public feelings in, just think about like communal living, for example. Like maybe you're tuned into collective wisdom about how you share with others and things of that nature. So I do think that how you seek pleasure, how you are creating beauty within your life could be tapped into the collective zeitgeist. I like that word for Menkar, honestly. I think that Venus, your sense of taste could be influenced by the collective, right? So I think that there's a lot of different ways to look at the nature of the planet and say, okay, well, what is the nature of that planet and what's its objective, and how might that planet be influenced by collective influences? So like, Jupiter would act differently than Venus on that particular fixed star, because Jupiter would be taking actions to help confirm, which is a good Robert Schmidt word, honor and merit, and peace, which is one of Jupiter's significations. So that's a little bit different energy than when Venus is there. But these are good questions, Devin. Julian says, I don't have anything, but I have someone close that has Mars at 14 and the person's Sun at 16. Yeah, Mars on, like, again, we were talking about Mars on Menkar. Mars could be about the way that we utilize our fighting instincts, the way that we utilize our self-motivated or self-directed, energetic activities, the way that we sever and separate from others could be influenced by the collective. The way that we get angry, like if you have Mars on 14 Taurus, you could be feeling angry, like due to the collective's anger. And you might not know why you're getting angry, and you're like, why do I feel angry? And it could be because there's a lot of collective or civil unrest going on, and you're just feeling it within your body, and just tuned in like a mushroom is the fruiting body of an underground mycelial network. You could be feeling that network impulse and the kind of the electrical impulses that we share. I think that a lot of times human beings have ways that we communicate with one another that aren't rational, that aren't conscious. I do believe in a collective unconscious, like Jung talks about, that we're plugged into something greater than ourselves. And I think that a lot of times, like a fixed star like Menkar can teach us how we might be plugged in and how we may experience that collective. Devin says, would you agree that you find a teacher's students in the third house? Maybe. I haven't really thought about it from that particular lens. I definitely think that the ninth house is more about teaching, and the third house is definitely about early education and learning. I think a teacher's students can be a number of different places. The first thing that came into mind, honestly, was two places, the 7th and the 11th house. Like the 7th is just others, people that we have to deal with, and the 11th house being the group that we share a collective set of beliefs with. I think that could be something as well. But I could see rational arguments for the third house being your students as well. So that's my very non-committal answer. But again, I'm someone who sees things in gray areas and ambiguities. I don't like making black and white declarative statements, and that's true for significations with houses too. The chart can shift based on the question that we ask it. And no worries. I like questions, so Devin, keep them coming. Answering questions is one of my favorite things in the world. So that's what this is for. That's what the chat's for. Ravana says, I have rising in the second decan of Scorpio, and that's definitely spot on. Oh, good. I'm glad that we're shining some light on some of the both the gifts and the challenges through the lens of the decans. They really, really do bring a lot of beautiful insight through some of the themes associated with that. So definitely check out the Decans webinar if you're interested in learning more about that. Julian says, yes, thank you for the detailed explanation. Oh, Julian, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate you, Julian. Appreciate your support of the channel and just your presence, and enjoy connecting with you here. And thank you for your generosity here today. And yeah, friends, if you want to support the channel, easiest thing you can do, just make sure you like the video here and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You can subscribe to my newsletter too if you want to know when I'm going live, so you don't miss a live at Friday and sometimes Thursday. But you can also do a super sticker or a super chat like Julene is doing here on YouTube, or you can buy me a coffee after the fact at buymeacoffee.com. Louis Stars is a dog, and I always have fun. Good. That's what I love. I love connecting with our pets, you know, our animal companions, our fur babies, whatever you want to call it. I have two lovely cats that keep me afloat each day. Dawn says, agreed about the light and the dark on the journey. Yes. Again, we have to be able to balance both. Oh, wow. Really awesome chat here today, friends. Kate Louise says, I just got asked to be a guest on a radio show scheduled for mid-May. I'm hopeful that this new moon on the DC is blessing the seeds for something in my work. Hopefully no challenges. Well, I wish you luck with that, Kate. Maybe it will be. The descendant, or the DC for short, is usually in the 7th house, but yeah, well, I'll just think. I was thinking if there possibilities that it is not in the 7th house, but I think that it usually is, because I know the midheaven and the IC can be in different houses with whole sign houses, but the descendant generally is in the 7th house, and that can be related to the public, so our interactions with the public. So this could definitely be a new, forward-facing kind of experience for you, Kate, and I wish you luck for it. All right. Yes, completely believe that. Yes. Steven says, sometimes I go through my day like a contestant of Press Your Luck. No worries. You're funny, Steven. Ravana says, to tack on to Devin's question, how do you interpret fixed star conjunctions generally? I've seen people saying it's only relevant for the ascendant, midheaven, moon, and sun. Have trouble gauging relevance of Venus on Regulus. Well, Ravana, I feel that generally I will, like I said, I will use about a 1 degree orb, sometimes 2 if the fixed star is very bright. And I use projected ecliptical degree, which means that we're projecting where the fixed star is from the ecliptic. There's another way of looking at fixed stars called parans, which places fixed stars on one of the angles, and as a relationship, it's complicated to explain, but it's a different way of looking at fixed stars, and there's some astrologers that do some really great work with that. It takes into account your location, so it's more of a location-based way of looking at fixed stars. But I found that for me, it works best with a projected ecliptical degree, or honestly, not even that it works best or whatever. It's just, it is the method that I use. And I'm a firm believer in consistency of craft. And I think that one of the things to think about with that is that because astrology is divinatory in nature, when you have made an agreement about how you are going to use something and the method that you're going to use, then the chart, the fixed stars, etc., tend to communicate with you in that regard. Now, it's not always completely 100% true. There are some unmutable symbols, laws to the universe, but I have often found that the symbols meet you halfway. And I think if more people would accept that, they would get a lot less anxiety about having to be perfect about which system, which rule, which method that they're using, and they would get into a lot less arguments with people about their chosen methods. So I hope that is helpful for you. Kate says, I believe in the collective unconscious too. I love Jung's work. I am a big fan of Carl Jung. He was a natural extension of my first foray into myth from Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was kind of my introduction into mythology, and and then into Jung and those kind of works. I know some people have mixed feelings about Joseph Campbell, but his interviews with Bill Moyers and The Power of Myth were really formative for me in understanding kind of how some of this stuff works. The myth of the hero with 1,000 faces and the monomyth. I've come off of my adherence to the monomyth after learning about the multifaceted way we can look at mythology, but I do think that there's some real benefit in both Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell's work. And again, it just, that series, The Power of Myth, introduced me to so many ideas that opened my mind up to possibilities with this work as well. Don says the 11th jumped at me straight away, third from the 9th, right? Yeah, right. Dawn's talking about what would be your students, and she's utilizing derived houses to get the students from the teacher. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Dawn. I think that if I had to settle on one, that would be the one that would stick out to me most. Devin says AC/DC doesn't change in most houses. Good. Yeah, I don't know why that was confusing for me, but because I believe that I don't know. Well, I won't dwell on it, but I think you're definitely right, Devin. Lobsang Gyatso is here. Says, which horse will do good in the Kentucky Derby tomorrow? Oh, Lobsang. Unfortunately, I don't have the birth charts for the horses at my disposal today. Although if I did, I might be able to give you a better answer. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to plead ignorance in that regard today. But good luck to you if that's something that you are paying attention to, and I hope that your horse comes through for you. Stellar Rendition is here. Says, a little late to the conversation, but made it. Yay. Any thoughts on how to navigate Chiron there on Menkar? Everyone's concerned with Menkar today. Let's see. Where is... So Chiron, are you talking about in your own chart? Like... because Menkar isn't on Chiron in the new moon chart, but if you're talking about your own chart, and then we'll do one more Menkar reading, and then we'll go to the rising signs, and so that we can all kind of get on with our day. Menkar on Chiron, fascinating. So think about what Chiron might represent, and think about what the fourth house might represent. To me, Chiron is I've thought about it through the teacher, right? The someone who has a lot of wisdom to share, but also carries a wound that is difficult to heal. Oftentimes, from my experience of Chiron, it can show us what we can teach others, but we have a lot of difficulty healing within ourselves. I mean, I have Chiron in the second decan of Taurus. I'm assuming like you do, Stella, but it's in the 10th house. So let's say you're trying to create abundance for others, right? Or teach them about pacing yourself or creating abundance. But we may have guilt around receiving abundance, which all of you have seen my, existential crises around that. Or maybe we are able to help others craft healthy routines, but maybe sometimes we have difficulty with our own routines. And I've gone through some challenges with that too. And this could be related to your own habits in relationship to your family instead of with your your business or your public face. It might be more about your private face. And maybe your family, fourth house, your roots are a source of pain. And maybe your family has some challenges because they are tapped into some sort of collective unconscious, for better or for worse. Sometimes we come from families that experience clannishism, right? Where they're tapped into a belief system that, doesn't allow them to have compassion for other lifestyles. That maybe that's how it expresses. There could be a lot of ways that could come through. And, but I think that, we're not our families, we're not our chart, and we can make choices in the moment with this knowledge to be and do better and do differently. So I hope that's helpful for you. Julian says, I'm seeing a fixed star class or webinar coming. Such curiosity. I thought about that. I thought about doing a fixed star class. And then there was another, this always trips me up. I always have an idea for something, and then someone else in my field is doing something similar, and then I'm like, oh, they're already doing it. I shouldn't bother. But I don't think that that's necessarily a good way of doing a career, is always either doing or not doing something based on whether someone else has or hasn't done it before, because we each have our own voice. So that's good encouragement, Julian. I'll take that into consideration, because there's a lot of interest in that, and I love talking about fixed stars. Okay, friends, let's take a stretch break. What do you say? Let's stretch out. We're at the hour-and-a-half mark. We'll take a little stretch, and this is always good, especially to talk about a Taurus new moon. Move your body a little bit. Stretch out. Get yourself a little drink of water. Get a snack. Move your shoulders. Move your hips. I always like to try to stretch out my hips during these, because sitting too much can lead to challenging experiences. Get a little drink. Do a little dance. Make a little love. Get down tonight. Get down tonight. Get down, get down, get down. Get down tonight. Okay. Sorry, a little music break. What was that, Casey and the Sunshine Band? What's coming out of me? Oh, friends, do me a huge favor. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. We try to keep things pretty casual. We hang out for a couple hours, usually every Friday, sometimes a Thursday, very rarely a Saturday. And we just like discussing astrology. We break down the new and the full moons, the astrology of each month. We have Q&A sessions, and sometimes we have some special topics that come up. I recently did a podcast about the NFL draft because I like sports, and some people dug it, other people didn't, and that's life. But I hope that you're finding value, and I hope that you're enjoying yourself here. And as long as you're kind to one another, you're welcome here. That's really our mostly our only rule, is just be kind to one another, and leave space for viewpoints and opinions other than your own. And this is hopefully a sanctuary and oasis for you. All right. So let's see. Steven's taking off. Take care, Steven. We'll see you next time. Have a great weekend. Robin says, I would love to study the fixed stars with you. You should totally do it. Maybe I will. Maybe I will, Robin. I'm trying to think of new offerings that should be coming in June, and have some ideas about the planets, and maybe fixed stars should be a part of that. Thank you, Stella. Appreciate you. Julian says the sports show was awesome. Oh, good, Julian. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I was a little tired that day when I did that live stream. That was the second live stream in as many days, and I'm usually the day after doing these, I kind of take a break, and that one was especially like my brain was a little bit foggy, mostly because I had been up very late watching the draft, and that is the one thing I like to indulge in. Is I do enjoy American football, and I know that, again, it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's okay. I totally understand. Doesn't mean that I don't care about other more important things in the world. It just means that sometimes we need some things that give us some joy and some pleasure. And I think that I do enjoy like breaking down athletes' charts, though. It is super fun. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. If I do something like that again, hopefully I'll be better rested and do an even better job. But I appreciate you, Julian. Okay, let's keep going. So let's take a look at the new moon through the rising signs. We're not going to spend too much time on this today, but we can take a look and we will give you some insights into the house that this might be working for you. Let me make sure. Whoops. Let me get this all arranged here. All right, we're going to go back here. Get down, get down. There it is. All right. Get down tonight. That's going to be going on in my brain. The other thing that's going on in my brain, friends, I mistakenly ran across this weird, video of this lady in a thrift store who was singing like the biscuit song and the honey sauce. You ever heard that? It's like this it's kind of funny. I don't know what was going on with it. Dip the biscuit in the honey sauce. Keep keep it away from my chicken wings. Just go look that up. But there's various things. Speaking of the zeitgeist, little things get stuck in our heads. And now I'll have a mashup of Casey and the Sunshine Band and the honey sauce, players of your local thrift store. Reverend Kai, what's up? Nice to see you, friend. We're just about to start talking about the rising signs, so welcome and nice to see you. Yeah, joining. So let's talk Taurus rising. We're always going to start with the rising sign associated with where the sun is moving through, because we try to do things equitably here. We try to give everyone a chance to be first. And of course, that means that somebody's going to have to be last. In this case, it's Aries. I apologize. I know that sometimes patience isn't your forte, but you'll survive. Okay, Taurus rising. You are having this new moon in the first house. So this could be a really important moment for you and especially your body, and being able to find a new rhythm, a new routine, to be able to plant seeds that will allow you to have more energy so that you can not only have more energy to give yourself, but to be there for others as well. I think that, remember, we're talking about being able to share our abundance and our beauty and our resources with others. And this is a really great moment to embrace that. I think that this is an interesting moment for you to feel comfortable within your own skin, within your own sense of self, without necessarily needing externalized input, trusting your inner self-worth, and creating the right types of routines. Remember, we talked about earlier, sometimes when you get started with Taurus, it's very difficult to stop. And Taurus risings can be very particular in this way. So really think long and hard about what you're committing to, because it's probably maybe even a point of pride about being consistent and being able to show up for your responsibilities. So we always want to think long and hard about what we're committing to before we do so. But this is a great time to plant seeds. Okay. You're also having a sextile here with Saturn in your 11th house. So there might be some realizations about the groups that you're within. Maybe there was some endings. And now you're understanding what is possible within the group and what might not be. Okay, so this is another thing where, when we come to terms with the gap between our dream and our reality, it allows us to take actions that can be supported. That when we understand what's possible, we're not trying to manifest things that just aren't ready to be brought into material form. So good luck with that, Taurus rising. Try not to get too fired up in secret with Mars conjoining the North Node shortly after this. There might be some things you need to let go of that are old beliefs or old internal traumas, but that can lead to future fertility. All right. So we're going to go a little quicker today through these. Okay. Julene says, we watched almost all of the draft and you're good at breaking down the athlete charts. Oh, thanks, Julene. Again, it's just a little hobby of mine. I love watching football, and I was considering doing another show on all of the Packers draft picks because I like the Packers, but it might be a little niche. We'll see. Okay, let's talk about Gemini rising. Gemini rising has a new moon in the 12th house. Okay, there's a sextile to Saturn in the 10th. Mars is hanging out in your 11th, conjoining with the North Node. So this, for Gemini rising, a couple things. I think that oftentimes Gemini rising will overthink some things. That there's a lot kicking around inside the old noggin. And there's a lot of things that are pulling folks in a lot of different directions, a lot of chattering. You folks have been going through some really challenging times with 10th house Saturn, a lot of changes in your public, the way that you express yourself in public and your sense of purpose out in the world. Maybe some working within some new limitations potentially. And I think this is a great new moon to rest. I think that finding the time to take some time out, maybe to take a break from whatever has been vexing you, and give yourself some self-care. You know, because I think that this new moon could go one of two ways for a Gemini rising. If they commit to taking a break and to be able to rest a little bit, I think that will lead to more positive outcomes. I think that if you keep going, that could lead to a mental breakdown. I think that's one of the other things that is associated with 12th house is, undermining influences. And sometimes the underminer is ourselves. I'm speaking from experience because I have Sun and Mercury in the 12th house natally. And when we don't allow ourselves a timeout every once in a while, burnout is really easy. So Gemini rising, really important to give yourself the self-care that you need, to understand when it's time to rest, when it's time to play, when it's time to work. With Saturn going through your 10th house, like I said, those changes are really important. But you don't have to prove your worth to the world. Like, let's say that you've gone through a shift in your job, or you've in the way that you present publicly. Oftentimes we feel insecure if something has ended, like if a job has ended or if a role has ended, and we take on with gusto a different role that can to prove that we still have worth and value out in the world. And I'm here to tell you, and I said this at the beginning of the show, every one of you is valuable and worthwhile just by the nature of who you are and just by being. You don't have to do anything to prove that you are worthy of love. And I think that that's a really important message, especially for the Gemini risings out there. Be careful, Gemini rising, with Mars coming together with the North Node in your 11th house, could lead to conflicts with your milieu, with like a group that you're a part of. You may be wanting to assert yourself within a group or publicly. You might have some anger that is bubbling over, and I get it. There's a lot of things in the world right now to be angry about. There's a lot of things to project our anger onto. And there's a lot of genuine things to be angry about. I guess what I will say is this is important for any Gemini type. Rising, Sun, Moon, Venus. I'm speaking again from experience with Gemini Venus. A lot of the mythology associated with Gemini talks about the shadow, the twin, right? I have experienced with clients, with myself, with my personal life, a lot of projection with Gemini, where a lot of the anger that we carry inside of us can oftentimes be projected onto some sort of external challenge, enemy, etc. And that oftentimes needs to be integrated back into the self. It needs to be balanced back into the self rather than externalized as some sort of external force. I think a lot of times there's a split with Gemini in particular. And we need to own our shadows, right? And I think that it's very easy to get overwhelmed when we feel that there's so many external challenges out there. And our nervous system can get very overwhelmed. And this is an important moment for you, Gemini rising, to, I think, to relax, to give yourself the self-love of all parts of yourself, and to own that, whether it's anger, whether it's anxiety, fear, just what we own that internally. It's much easier to be centered and to be balanced, so that when your voice is needed, you'll be able to speak from a point of balance and centeredness and wisdom, rather than projection of unrestrained anger or finger pointing or whatever it may be. So I hope that's helpful for you. And Mariana is here. What's up, Mariana? Says, hi, Spencer. I just arrived after so long, just as my Gemini rising horoscope started. Well, Mariana, I hope that you're doing well, and that reading is helpful for you. Appreciate you, and hope everything's going well, I believe, down in Argentina. Okay. Tanya Gerardo. What's up, Tanya? Says, Gemini rising here. I purchased copper jewelry today for my Gemini nerves. Epsom salt, magnesium, is also helpful for nerves. Hope this helps my fellow gems. That's good advice, Tanya. Yeah, I love copper for balancing. I have copper in my pocket right now. I always carry copper on Friday, day of Venus. It is great for keeping us calm, isn't it? Epsom salt baths are wonderful. I've been taking a magnesium supplement in the morning now, and that's been really helping, keeping me calm. And as a Venus and Gemini native, sometimes I can get a little too thinky sometimes, and it's good to stay grounded. Thank you, Luna Storm. Appreciate you. Julene says, very helpful for all of my Gemini. Thank you. Thank you, Julene. Yeah, just hang in there. And you know what? This is the thing. Like, 12th house, sometimes the crisis is real. Sometimes the undermining thing is real. And sometimes we're just thinking about the worst case scenario that doesn't necessarily come to fruition. So again, there are real tragedies that happen every day and that are happening right now. And again, I think pacing ourselves in our own nervous system in regards to how we handle that is super important, because I do think that when you're trying to make change out in the world, understanding both how you are attracting people to your point of view and repelling people towards your point of view is important, and coming from a place of deep love and wisdom rather than from a place of hate is super important. It's very, very easy to get sucked into the negativity and the hate that we're experiencing in the world, and then just become a microcosm of it in our own lives. And that's something I just refuse to do. Like, I work very hard not to do that. And I think that it's unfortunate, because it gets harder. You know, the more of this challenge that we experience, it gets harder and harder. All right. Julian says, I do magnesium. It's so helpful for sleep. Yeah, I'm with you, Julian. It does definitely. It has been very good for my nervous system. Stella Rendition says, been watching the playoffs. Bummer about the Bucks. Yeah, Stella. That was rough. I watched a little bit of it last night. I knew they were going to lose. I knew I knew they were going to lose just because, you know, they weren't playing very well, and Giannis was hurt, and Dame Lillard was hurt, and I also looked at both of their charts, and Saturn was making contact with important planets in their chart, which spoke pretty heavily in my mind to this being the end of their season. So yeah, it didn't work out as well as they hoped. It was the end of a dream, right? Where we talk about Saturn and Pisces too. Sometimes we have have to become realistic about what is and what isn't possible. There was a lot of hope in the beginning of the season, and it just didn't work out the way that they thought, and they'll have to make adjustments accordingly. But yeah, total bummer about the Bucks, and mostly it's a bummer when you don't have your players due to injury. That's when I get most bummed out about negative outcomes in sports. It's okay if the other team is just better. It's worse when you just don't have the full, the full line up. But yeah, I'll survive. Give me more time to do other things. Okay, Gemini rising. Appreciate all of you. Hope that you're doing well out there. Let's talk Cancer rising. Okay, Cancer rising. Okay, Cancer rising. It's time for your horoscope. Okay, Cancer rising. We're going to circle your 11th house. And we're going to take a look at Saturn hanging out in your 9th. We've got, I guess we'll give you a warning about Mars in your 10th. I like these little colors here. So the new moon in your 11th house is speaking towards a new start within a group that you may share some beliefs with. It could also be the beginning of a new set of benefits from either your community or from the government or something of that nature, through an authoritative organization or figure, because the 11th is the second derived house from the 10th, which is associated with the aforementioned things. I think it's a good time to maybe even join with others in a new community potentially, and to find new rhythms within new routines within your group as well. Now, this may lead to you having to become more realistic about some of your belief systems around joining with others, around giving and receiving. Like I said, if I look at this through the lens of like a Cancer sun, I'm having to shift some belief systems to be able to make a new start within my group, and things of that nature, and maybe starting new classes and stuff like that. And it's okay to shift our beliefs. It's okay to let go of our idealism sometimes, when it's proven to not, be supporting our actions out in the world. I think that's a lot of what Saturn and Pisces is teaching us right now. Is there? It's tough to be idealistic when your idealism isn't supported with tangible results. It also is important to have faith. I think that's another thing Saturn can test. It's a test of our faith and a test of our beliefs, and see which beliefs are going to continue to fly and which ones will drown in the river Eurydanus, like Phaethon after he got struck down from the chariot of the sun, trying to drive his father's chariot before he was ready. So which of the things are going to live and which ones are going to need to be returned to the earth? So Cancer rising, I think this is a nice one for you, Cancer rising, especially because you're ruled by the moon. So the moon has a lot of dignity in this decan, okay? Like mega decan. Say that 3 times fast. Mega deca dignity. That's what mega deca dignity. No diggity. Sorry, a little pudgy. No dignity. I want to bag it up. So I feel like singing today. I don't know. Is it Taurus season or what? I just want to sing today. So I think it could be a really positive thing for you and your relationship with your community. So don't let this opportunity go to waste. You have all the resources that you need to be able to make a new start and to join with others that have a shared sense of purpose with you. Careful, Cancer rising, to not get too overly aggressive with your public facing persona, with the 10th house Mars coming together with the North Node. I know you want to start something new and have independence, but you just have to make sure that you're not creating collateral damage along the way. Just think things through. I know that we all have personal desires that are coming to the surface with Mars in Aries and Mars conjoining the North Node, but I think it's important to see how it fits into the big picture. It is never a bad thing to see how our personal desires fit into the collective needs. And I think that could be important as you're moving through that conjunction with the North Node. Okay, that's what we got for you, Cancer rising. Let's check in with the chat. Julene says, the Nuggets took my sons to the cleaners. Oh my goodness. Nuggets are good. I mean, they're the champs, right? Suns are old. Same problem the Bucks have. The Bucks have an aging roster, and they just couldn't keep up with the kids down in Indiana. They got young, hungry kids that weren't injured. They were healthy, and they just ran them off the floor. And the sons of older veterans. They have talented veterans, but they're older, and Nuggets just are a well-oiled machine. So I think that they're going to be tough to beat. I really like the Timberwolves though now too. They look really good. I think that Timberwolves and Pacers would be an interesting finals. Anybody but the Celtics is what I will say. Sorry, everybody for Boston, but that's the team I think I like the least, just because they've been a tough out with the Bucks recently. Stella says, totally agree, not getting to operate with your full capacity. Yeah. Yeah, we're in reference to the unfortunate nature of sports injuries. It's always beautiful to see a vision come together. Like, when a general manager of a team creates a roster, he has a vision. And when pieces of it aren't there, it's difficult to make it work in our lives, right? Or in any area of our life. Just like when we make plans in our own personal lives. Sometimes some pieces don't work out the way that we thought, and that can mess with the whole system and the whole success of the whole project. If one person doesn't pull their weight, or if something unfortunate happens to somebody or some part of the project, it can cause the whole thing to fall apart. So there's lessons that we can take from sports. I see everything in my life as a metaphor, whether it's nature, sports, food, animals. You can see truth and wisdom through all of it. And sports is just another vehicle for that. And I learn a lot from it. Okay, Leo. Leo. Let's do Leo. So Leo rising. What's up, my fellow Leo risings? Let's do this. So we got a 10th house new moon, Leo friends. We got let's make that one green for Venus and Taurus. We got to be careful of our 9th house Mars coming together with the North Node, and we should probably acknowledge the challenges of Saturn in our 8th house. So Leo risings, this could be a big new start for you in your career. Big new start for you and your public persona, for finding a sense of purpose out in the world, for having new professional habits and routines, for creating abundance within your career and within your life. You've got everything you need right now, Leo rising. You've got the knowledge, you've got the resources, you've got the support. It's just time to go for it. And I think it's important to be realistic about what you are capable of and what you're capable of doing by yourself, and what support that you might need, whether it's help from people around you or from the resources that you need. There's been a lot of changes in your 8th house with Saturn moving through that particular place, showing you what is possible and what isn't with shared resources with others. There might be some things with debt that you're clearing up. Those of you who follow the show know I've been dealing with, kind of student loan debt and kind of trying to remedy some of those challenges of the past. Mars conjoining the North Node. Be careful about sharing your own beliefs. I think that a lot of times Leo is they are defensive of their beliefs because they want to be, first of all, I think most Leos, not every single one, but most Leos want to be, just all they want is to be loved. And I think that the authenticity that Leo is looking for is not necessarily to get love from every single person in the world, although we will attempt to do so. It's that we want to be loved for who we really are, the authentic self. And I think the nature of authenticity is conformity between how you feel on the inside and your expression externally. This has been a tough journey for me. A lot of Leo risings can be people pleasers. So releasing the need to try to impress or receive love from everyone and just being yourself. And here's the thing. Some people are going to like it. Some people aren't. Some people are going to choose to follow your lead, because Leo risings can make great leaders. Other people are going to have a different journey and a different path that they're going to follow. I try to be as open to as many different paths as I possibly can on this channel. But at the end of the day, there's going to be some people that don't like my message. Maybe they don't like my style. Maybe they don't agree with me on certain things. And you know what? That's okay. And there's going to be people in your life, Leo rising, that don't agree with you and your journey and where you're going, and that's okay. Let them go. Try not to get too angry about somebody who might not agree with your chosen path and belief system, with Mars coming together with that North Node. I have a Leo friend that's going through Leo Sun friend. Like, so again, I've seen a lot of overlap with rising sign horoscopes and sun sign horoscopes. And he gets very angry if someone questions his beliefs. And I've had a lot of conversations with him recently and say, hey man, sometimes that's just our pride talking. Like, not everyone's going to agree with us, and that's all right. Like, it's okay to let people go their own way. And instead of becoming defensive and roaring, we just have to become objective. We have to bring in some of that Aquarian objectivity that's a balancing energy and say, okay, I'm going to keep going my way, you go yours, and let bygones be bygones. So, Leo rising, to summarize, really important start for you potentially in your career, in your public persona, a new start to be able to give and receive resources. Be realistic about the help that you need or the help that you are receiving, and then try not to get too bent out of shape if someone doesn't agree with your methods or with your beliefs. Doesn't mean that they don't like you. I mean, that's the thing. Oftentimes what will happen is we'll take things personally when people are expressing some of those negative things, it's a reflection of their belief system. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with everything to do with them and where they're coming from. So important to realize the difference, and it's important to acknowledge if we make mistakes too. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're human. All right, there you go. Good luck, Leo. Okay, Virgo. Before I do Virgo, I'm gonna say hi to my friend Jennifer. What's up, Jennifer? It says, hi, I finally made it. Nice to see you. It says, Gemini rising here. Dang, I missed it. I will listen on the way home from work. Oh, that's okay, Jennifer. I hopefully you'll find some benefit in it. But Jennifer, just long story short, take it easy. It's okay to take some time off right now for you Gemini risings. Okay, Virgo rising. Let's take a look at your horoscope here. Come and knock on my door. Why is this blue? There's a happy little circle. And to show us the new moon in the 9th house, Saturn's hanging out in your 7th house. I'm tapping into my inner Bob Ross here today. Happy little circle. There it is. And you got the Mars coming together with the North Node in your 8th house. So Virgo rising, new moon in your 9th house. 9th house is associated with how we find, I think it's associated with how we find purpose and how knowledge is revealed to us, sometimes through orthodox systems rather than from an inner knowing. We talked about this much earlier in the show, the difference between the Hierophant, which I think I can relate a little bit to the 9th house, and the joy of the sun, like the revelation of knowledge through discipline. And the 3rd house, which I can somewhat equate to the High Priestess, which is related to the moon and the joy of the moon in the 3rd house, which knowledge that arises from within, that sometimes we veil, that we hide from others. So you've got the new moon in the 9th house, which is more about revelation, like more revelation of wisdom. Sometimes it's about the journeys that we take to find meaning. If you think about it from the perspective of an angular triad, we can see that the 9th house is something called a cadent house from the 10th. It is the house that was on the midheaven or the 10th house before the sign that's currently on there. So Taurus was on the midheaven by clockwise primary motion before Gemini. So you can often think about it as a period of time before you take action out in the world. Sometimes we have to know what we believe in before we can take action on it. So this could be a moment for you, Virgo rising, for understanding what it is that you believe in, what resources you have at your disposal, spiritually or physically or otherwise, before you take action out in the world. You may also be planning a trip. It may be a trip that will lead to future abundance. So stay open to the possibilities there. Saturn sextile in the 7th house could be speaking towards becoming realistic about a partnership, about your beliefs around partnership, around what was possible or what wasn't with a business partner, a romantic partner, with the public, etc. And then finally, Mars conjoining the North Node. There could be some possibility where you're trying to sever from a source of support potentially in the past, and you want some independence from maybe a contractual agreement from somebody. But be careful about getting too upset or angry or things spiraling out of control with Mars getting in close to the North Node. I have a Virgo friend who had a challenge with a service company, and they ended up not providing the service that they said that they were going to, and they went to small claims court to get their money back for the money that they prepaid. And there was a lot of anger involved in it, and I'm still waiting to hear back what's going on with them, but hopefully it doesn't spiral out of control for them. So just try to keep yourself, reeled in when that kind of thing happens. But again, could be a really positive new start for teaching as well. If you're a teacher, Virgo rising, 9th house again could be about starting a new teaching module or starting higher education. 9th house is often associated with the legal system, but also the higher education system. So there could be a new legal action that's happening that could bring material benefits, or there could be a new degree that you're pursuing or something new educational, class that could bring you material resources eventually. Okay. All right. Well, let's go. Okay, Libra rising, here you go. Here's our Libra risings. Just checking in. Let's see. Jennifer says, daughters and granddaughter are coming in from Florida on the 21st to the 3rd, so definitely taking time off. Nice, Jennifer. That'll be fun. Yeah, just relax. Just kick back and enjoy the special time with family. That's awesome. Yeah, Tracy says, awesome. Okay. All right, Libra rising. Thank you for your patience. Libra rising has a new moon in the 8th house. Saturn is hanging out in your 6th, sextiling the new moon. And then we have to be on the lookout for Mars conjoining the North Node eventually in your 7th house. So Libra rising could be potentially dealing with a shared resource question. Could be related to an inheritance, something that happens after a completion, like a death. It could be related to a shared resource with a partner, the 2nd house from the 7th. You could be creating new rhythms and routines in sharing even a workload with a partner. Saying, okay, I'm going to start delegating this because I need some help or something like that. Because Saturn's moving through your 6th house. Saturn says, you know what? Maybe you don't need to take on all of the responsibility for not only yourself, but everyone else. So maybe there's healthy boundaries that you're putting into place because you just can't keep grinding away. Maybe it's affecting your health that you're grinding too much. I think it could be a really nice time for Libra risings, both Libra and Taurus rising in particular, because Venus is in its own domicile. Even though it's in aversion to the ascendant, I still think that there is a concept called like and girding when a planet's ruler is in aversion, but it's still in the other sign that it rules, where there's a secret channel for resources. I would be careful, Libra rising, about Mars coming together with the North Node in your 7th house. When we're having these new discussions about who takes care of what, could lead to some testy moments with a partner potentially. You might be trying to get more independence within a relationship, and that could lead to some, boiling waters. So try to utilize all of your social graces, your ability to create win-win situations, And that can lead to the most successful outcomes, I think, in this particular arrangement. Okay? All right. Scorpio rising. Scorpio. All you Scorpios out there. So Scorpio rising. New moon, angular new moon in the 7th house. Saturn's hanging out in the 5th, sextiling the new moon. And then Mars is coming together with the North Node in the 6th house. So for you Scorpio risings, a couple things. The condition of Mars has improved moving into Aries, but it moved into your 6th house in aversion to your ascendant. So this is another condition of lichen girding, where Mars has moved into a sign that it rules, even though it doesn't witness by traditional aspect the ascendant. So there are secret resources available for you, but it's going to come through hard work. It's going to come through working maybe even with a contractor of some sort. And be careful not to overdo it, right? Scorpio rising with the Mars coming together with the North Node in your 6th house. It could lead to burnout potentially. But this new moon is happening in your 7th house. This is a new time for partnership, for your relationship to the public. Could be a new way of establishing habits and routines within a partnership. Every partnership has its own microcosm or microclimate of ruts and habits and routines that we get into. And this is a good opportunity to make sure that the ones that you're incorporating into your life are healthy ones. I've seen a lot of times Scorpio risings, like Scorpios in general, they can get into negative habits with their partners, or they have difficulty getting out of a cycle of things that aren't good for them because there's someone else in their life that is holding them in that negative cycle of reinforcement. So this is a great opportunity to create healthy habits and create healthy ways of spending your time, and maybe even understanding that you can't just work all the time too with Mars in your 6th house. You have to take time out to play a little bit and to recharge the battery. 5th house Saturn could be a lot of realizations. Like if you have kids, could be something where you're having to deal with a reality check in regards to kids, but also how you seek pleasure or your own personal creative process. This could be a time when you're maybe Scorpio risings out there, they're getting sober or something like that, and having to really put into check how they seek pleasure. And that can mean a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be alcohol or drugs. It could be food. It could be anything else that takes us off path. And this is a time to reestablish new healthy routines within a partnership. Okay? Okay. All right, Scorpio. Good luck to all of you. Sagittarius rising. Let's see what we got here. Let's check in with comments. Robin says, I'm a Libra rising and I get a decent amount of money for my tax return. Nice. Congratulations, Robin. That's awesome. So that was in your 8th house. New moon in the 8th house, right? Getting some resources from the government. And yeah, 8th house is also associated with tax and debt and things of that nature. So yeah, that'll be great. That'll help support you on your journey, and good luck with all that, friend. Robin says, I'm also working myself way too hard. Well, don't do that. Like, take a break every once in a while. You got this. All right, Sag rising. Excuse me. You have the new moon in your 6th house. Saturn is sextiling the new moon from your 4th, and Mars is coming together with the North Node in your 5th house. So Sagittarius rising, you just had Jupiter conjoining Uranus, maybe a positive realization about your health or about an injury or an illness or something of that nature that will help you to get out of a negative cycle and help repair something that's fallen into disrepair. This could be a really nice moment for you, Sag rising, especially for your health routines. Okay, maybe that realization was like one that I had with a dietary shift that is leading to more energy. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you had like some dental work done or something like that so that you filled in a cavity and now you can chew your food and you're not in pain anymore. It just helps you to establish new routines or something of that nature. Saturn in the fourth house is bringing some challenges within the family, within your family of origin, maybe with your father or with somebody that you care about. There could be a lot of responsibilities within your home or your domestic situation as well that could be putting a lot of pressure on you. Um, Mars coming together with the North Node in the fifth house could be a strong desire towards seeking pleasure, but also towards becoming more creative within your life as well. So there could be a strong push towards a creative outlet. Just be careful not to alienate your milieu, the group that you're a part of, with a single-minded pursuit of personal desires. When we have the North Node conjoining Mars, especially in Aries, sometimes we just don't care if people get in the way, and that can lead to a lot of negative consequences. So, good advice for everyone. Try not to pursue your own personal desires at all costs. Think about how it fits in to the bigger picture, while still taking the action. Still not getting so discouraged that you don't do anything, but seeing how it fits in to the bigger picture. Okay, let's keep rolling. Coming to the end of the show. Capricorn rising. All right, Cap rising. Fifth house new moon. Saturn is making a sextile from the third house, and Mars is conjoining the North Node in your fourth. So Capricorn rising, I think you're in line for a good time. And I say that with all the love in my heart for all you Cap risings out there who just can't stop working. It's time to take, just like I was talking about with the Gemini risings. Sometimes Gemini rising will overthink things and they just can't get out of their own head. Capricorn rising has a similar issue with like work. They have like an issue with knowing when to delegate responsibilities and say, I've done enough today. I think from what I've noticed from the Capricorn lovelies in my life is that they feel a lot of responsibility towards other people. And it's so hard for them to say, okay, I've done enough. It's time for me to just be me. They have the binding nature of Saturn. And this is an opportunity, Cap Rising, to just do something for fun. Don't do something because it will move you forward in life or that it'll pad your 401k or whatever. Just do something because you enjoy it. How can you incorporate some more routines into your life that is just for you? Not for your future security, not for taking care of someone else's responsibility, just for you, right? Just for your furry little goat self. How can you do something fun? How can you climb a mountain or whatever just for fun? Not to impress anybody, not for social capital, not for security within your reputation out in the world, just because you like it. I mean, that's some of the Taurus wisdom that Taurus can share with Capricorn. There could be some reality checks with your local community. Third house is also related to neighbors and siblings. Maybe you're dealing with a sibling that's going through a difficult time and you're having to have difficult conversations with them. Mars is coming together with the North Node in your fourth house, which could be related to wanting to make maybe some changes or potentially some conflicts happening within your home or within your family of origin. Could be a severing or separating that's happening within that sphere as well, and that could be bringing some stress. Even more reason to learn how to pace yourself, to know when to work hard when it's necessary, and know how to rest and to seek pleasure when you need a refill. Okay, so hang in there, Cap Rising. I know that sometimes this isn't the most ideal place for Saturn. It can lead to a little bit of a diffused effort over time and a need to surrender when oftentimes a lot of what Capricorn rising desires is feeling like they're in control of their life, materially or otherwise. And we're swimming through emotional waters right now. Expressing emotions isn't always the most comfortable for really for any earth sign, but for Saturn signs in particular. And a lot of that's being required lately is compassion and expressing feelings and things of that nature. So hang in there, Cap rising. You got this. Take some time and do something just for fun. Get in touch with the inner child. You know, again, I shared this story today about someone who was talking about Winnie the Pooh and like, you know, talking about playing and just doing something for fun and not regretting never stopping and, you know, smelling the flowers and climbing a tree or doing something just for pleasure. Like a lot of times people will look back in their life and they will regret just not spending more time with the people that they care about rather than just, you know, endlessly pursuing more and more and more material gain or security. And nothing wrong with pursuing material security. We all need that. But I think it's a balance. All right, there you go. Reverend Kai says, hold on a second. Jennifer says, what day are you showing on the charts? Well, the day of the new moon, Jennifer, which is May the 7th, which is Tuesday. So that's the day we're seeing with the sun and the moon coming together. Reverend Kai says, I didn't have dental work done, but I did have a TMJ flare-up, and just today I'm getting to chew food again, satirizing. Ooh, interesting. So that definitely kind of works, doesn't it? And I think you'll probably get your groove back around the new moon. Some of the pain might go away, and you'll be able to have a new routine around that, and maybe you'll have, I don't know if you came to any realizations about what could help heal that, but a lot of people have been going through light bulb moments with physical challenges. You know, Taurus related to the body. And a lot of us have been having amazing breakthroughs to be able to fix things about our body that have been a problem, myself included, with changing my diet in the last few weeks and feeling a lot better. Jennifer says, it was an exciting day at work today. I learned about a new retirement change and saw an eel being fed and talked to someone about astrology. Oh man, that sounds like a lot of wonderful things there, Jennifer. Eels are pretty cool. Glad to hear it. Okay, let's keep going. How about Aquarius? Aquarius, Aquarius, this is the dawning of the new moon in your 4th house. New moon in your 4th house. Your 4th house. Okay. Sorry, I'm being silly today. So Aquarius rising. I love Taurus season. I was listening to a lot of Michael Jackson yesterday while I was doing my gardening, and I just love that man's voice. I was listening to a vocal stacking from like Thriller, and it was just incredible how he stacked all the different ranges and harmonies, which is his own voice. That when you hear all those harmonies, it's just all him, and it's just pretty amazing. All right, Aquarius rising, you have a new moon in your 4th house, an angular new moon. So this could be a really important start for you, your family, your home, your domestic situation. Could be a lot of hopefully new good times coming within your home and your family. You've got everything you need. It's time to plant the seeds with the new living situation. Maybe you're doing a renovation or you're doing an expansion or an extension. But this is go forward o'clock. You probably have had to make some compromises with your budget. With Saturn moving through your 2nd house, there's probably a lot of new responsibilities where you have to kind of maybe step up and increase your income, or maybe you had a situation where you had a change in your living situation or within your family situation where it required you to go out and be more of the breadwinner, etc. So just be realistic about what you can and can't afford. I think that's important when we see a new moon in an angular house that's often related to like making changes to our domestic situation. Be careful about relating to either siblings, neighbors, or people in your community with Mars coming together with your North Node in the 3rd house. Okay. It could be situations where someone's grinding your gears a little bit. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a friend. And try not to let your anger spiral out of control when Mars hits that north node at 15. Well, I don't know if it's 15 degrees, but it's shortly afterwards on the 19th of May. It's at 14 degrees of Aries. They will come together. So be aware of that. And yeah, like I think this is just a really important time for making some important changes, especially with Pluto's moving through your first house too. Long-term changes, not short-term things. These are big changes in the way that you move out into the world and express yourself. So hang in there. Good luck with everything, Aquarius rising, and let me know how it goes. Oh, doo, 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 doo. Jennifer says, "Oh, thank you, driving my sister, a Virgo rising, to the airport that day. She's going to Arizona for a week." Nice, Jennifer. Trips. Okay, let's finish this off with Pisces and Aries. So we've got Pisces rising. Let's go back here. So Pisces rising has the new moon in the third house. Saturn is sextiling the new moon, separating in the first. And then there's the Mars North Node conjunction in your second house. So Pisces rising could be a new learning experience that you're going through, maybe a new class that you're taking. It could be a new sense of abundance and a new routine within your daily habits. This could be a good time to trust your inner wisdom rather than an external spiritual authority. I know a lot of the times my Piscean and Pisces rising friends love to get involved in the next new spiritual organization or follow the latest spiritual guru type of person. This is a good time to just trust your own instincts and trust your own intuition. Saturn's been moving through your first house, probably bringing you a lot of personal responsibility, a lot of changes, maybe even, making you feel a little down. Oftentimes when we have Saturn moving through the first house, depending on our relationship with us, it feels like we're working within limitations that we didn't have in the past. As a Jupiter-ruled sign, Pisces doesn't necessarily like living within limitations. They don't enjoy boundaries with others. They like merging with others and merging in that universal love feeling with kind of the co-rulers of Venus and the exaltation ruler and Jupiter, the domicile ruler. When Saturn comes along, it's like, oh, I guess I better set some healthy boundaries because this might be challenging. Like if I allow myself to be taken advantage of, or if I allow myself to get into a situation where there isn't a healthy demarcation between where my emotions begin and another one's ends. So it's okay to set boundaries. Like that's the nature of having a container for some of these watery feelings. Having a cup to contain it can give it structure and can keep it from spilling everywhere. So get in touch with your containers, Pisces rising at this new moon. Be careful about being overly aggressive with your resources, with your budget. You might really have a strong desire to go out and spend some money at this new moon. Be realistic about what is possible for you and what you can afford and what you can't. You might just be like, a lot of times Pisces rising, their relationship to money is just like, screw it, I'll figure it out. The universe will provide. And then they get themselves into trouble like that. Because yes, sometimes the universe will bring you resources, but you could go through a whole lot of pain if you overspend and then you don't have a plan. I think that the divine likes to meet us halfway. That's how I like to look at it. We have to take the right actions and practice common sense and then work with the natural spiritual forces. If we just go through life with a Pollyanna attitude and think that everything's going to work out, but we don't do anything to help ourselves, that can put us in some really sticky situations. So be careful with your resources, and trust your gut. Trust your gut this new moon. If you see an opportunity for expanding your resources, it might come through a friend. It might come through a neighbor or a sibling. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Also final thing, Pisces rising, Jupiter just went through the conjunction with Uranus, so you probably had some important realizations about fixing a challenge with a neighbor or with a friend or with a sibling. And Jupiter's about to move into your 4th house, into its exile. So there could be some new things coming, new options coming with your family or with your home. And you might feel a little overwhelmed at first because Jupiter is in its exile, but allow for some ambiguity. Like oftentimes we have to ask questions. Jupiter types sometimes enjoy certainty, and saying, yes, this is it. This is the capital T truth. And when we have planets moving through mercurial signs, we have to be okay with relative truths sometimes, where we see the things from a different angle when we explore a little bit. And that might be something that's coming for you, especially with your residence and your place of living, some exploration where it might feel a little bit unsettled at first, but we have to gather information rather than always act upon what we think we know, which isn't always correct. So hang in there, and we'll try to walk you through it every step of the way. But trust your own gut. You can come here for, my perspective, but trust your own gut when it comes down to it. All right, Aries rising. Let's do this. Thank you for your patience, Aries rising. You're a trooper. You're a champ. You got a new moon in your 2nd house of material resources, of how you make money, things that you put into your body. Okay, so this could be new habits and routines around your budget, around your diet, around people that support you. That's a 2nd house signification as well. Saturn is sextiling the new moon from the 12th house, probably requiring you to have some realistic attitudes about how other people or how you might undermine yourself. So getting clear and tying up loose ends and getting realistic about the types of habits and the types of people that might take you away from your power. Okay. And then you have Mars coming together with the North Node in your 1st house. Holy cow, that's spicy. So you probably felt a burst of energy when Mars moved in your 1st house, because that's its own planetary ruler coming home. You might feel fired up. You might be wanting to go exercise. You might be wanting to go fight with somebody. You might be worked up. And if you're doing either one of those things, I would suggest slowing down a little bit, especially when the North Node conjoins Mars on the 19th. It can be really easy to overdo it in the gym or in an argument with somebody where you could create some damage that's difficult to recover from. So be careful about that. Pace yourself and try to establish a new routine, especially when it comes to how you're creating the type of material security that supports an energetic lifestyle. Okay. You probably had to fix some things within your budget or fix some things within your diet recently. And that can lead to eliminating some things that took you away from empowerment. So try to slow down if you can. Doesn't mean you have to slow down completely. You don't have to overthink anything, but there is some benefit to considering the ramifications of increasing the volume of a conflict without considering its ramifications. So that's my advice for you, Aries rising. You do you, and good luck with everything, and I hope it's a fortunate and fortuitous new moon for you. All right, my friends, those are your rising sign horoscopes for the new moon in Taurus. So we got a couple more things before we wrap up for the day. Thank you so much for being here. Do me a huge favor before we get to the I-Ching and the animal. Just go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the newsletter if you're new here. That's a great way to keep up to date on when I'm going live and new class offerings and things of that nature. Go ahead and follow me over at spencermichaud.com and check out all the offerings I have over there. That's where you can find my readings that I'm available for each week, as well as class offerings and pre-recorded webinars, etc. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Threads at Spencer Michaud. Most active on Instagram, so sometimes I'll post interesting things over there. I guess interesting to me, mostly cat videos and interesting nature stuff, but I try to keep it light. All right. Well, Jennifer says, are you going to be talking about the 17th and 18th with the conjunction, by the way, of Jupiter and the Sun and Venus and Uranus? Yeah, I will probably be talking about that. I talked about that in a lot of detail in the Astrology of May, if you want to go check that out. But I will also probably touch on that next week when we go live as well. But yes, it's on my radar for sure. I think the Jupiter Cazimi is really important, and it's part of this lunation cycle. So I think it's important to kind of, acknowledge that. But we'll talk about it more in depth next week. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, so let's look at the I-Ching for this new moon. And I think the I-Ching never fails. So we have the hexagram number 27, which translates to nourishment, right? Or the jaws, bulging cheeks, nourishing others, being nourished. You are what you eat. We've been talking about food. Taurus rules the throat, right? What we take into our body. So this hexagram is teaching us that we have to be aware of what we take in, of all types, of food, of physical nourishment, of spiritual nourishment, of intellectual nourishment, okay? And be aware that sometimes we can take in things that aren't healthy, all right? And make sure that we're, taking in the good stuff and filtering out some of the things that aren't good for us, okay? So it says the theme of this hexagram is nourishment of all types, including not only the food we take into our mouths, but also our spiritual nourishment. The hexagram thus concerns the proper care of both mind, body, heart, and soul. This is from Jack M. Balkin's translation. It's called The Laws of Change. It's my favorite translation of the I-Ching. He goes on to say, this hexagram has a double theme, the nourishment of the self and the nourishment of others. Remember the theme that we had in the Six of Pentacles, where we're giving and receiving? Okay. Both are important to a happy life. Nourishment of the self means care and cultivation of the self. The Book of Changes is concerned with much more than the nutrition that comes from eating good food. Nourishment means proper care of different aspects of the self, including the body, the mind, and the spirit. Just as the health of your body is affected by the quality of the food you take into your mouth, the health of your life is determined by the quality of the activities you engage in and the ways that you take care of yourself. Thus, the lesson of that's the name of this hexagram, is that you truly are what you eat when it comes to bodily nutrition and to forms of intellectual and spiritual nourishment. I think that's a really important point to make, especially when we're inundated with information and news and crisis, etc. I think it's important to be aware and to engage with those things. It is also equally important to be able to take care of yourself during those times as well as taking care of others and doing what you can to help others who are suffering while still taking care of your own needs so that you can be a force for good out in the world. That being said, there is a lot of noise right now, and there's a lot of competing interests that take advantage of people suffering to further their agendas. And I think that you have to be really careful about the news sources that you take in and how things are portrayed and things of that nature. For example, like we've been talking about some of the student protests, and there is some news agencies that are portraying and are focusing on just some of the violent parts of it, the quite honestly, the rare violent parts. Most of the people who are protesting across campuses, especially in my home state of Michigan, have done so peacefully and have done so in a way that is really focusing on how people can help rather than uh, glamorizing violence and engaging in a microcosm of the violence themselves. And there are some organizations that would have you think that just all chaos is breaking loose at these very peaceful protests. So that's one example of understanding what you're taking in intellectually, spiritually, etc. We've talked at length today about people shifting their diets, and seeing about what you bring into your body and what it will provide nourishment, and that other things that will be difficult to process. So it's the answers are going to be different for everyone. And I think that it's important to, again, with the Taurus element of this, to balance work and play, to not ignore the challenges in your life and to not ignore the negativity, but to pace yourself in a way that you can be the best helper that you can be when you are called upon. I'm not someone who believes that we need to be in crisis consciousness 24/7, but I do believe that we do need to be ready when we can provide the assistance that's needed of us. So that is nourishment, and we have a changing line here too. Changing line in the fourth says, overturning, seeking nourishment, good fortune. The tiger fixes its gaze, glaring, staring. Its desire reaches far, no blame. Jack says, a tiger is an animal full of desire. However, if your desires are upright, there is no harm in going after them with the single-mindedness of a tiger. In particular, seeking to nourish others is an especially worthy endeavor, and you may pursue it zealously. You have the necessary talents to support and benefit others, but because you cannot do this alone, you should look for the right people to help you. There is no blame in doing this because you are working for the good of others and not simply for yourself. That's really interesting. I love that. Being able to work towards creating abundance, not only for yourself, but for others in your community, in your milieu. And then finally, hexagram number 21 translates to biting through, reform, acting decisively, administrating punishments, and doing justice. This hexagram traditionally represents criminal penalties or recourse to law in order to enforce justice. More generally, she, which is the name of the hexagram, concerns the need for energetic reform. He, I believe. The basic metaphor of this hexagram is a person who bites through an obstruction. Where there is a danger of significant deterioration or lasting injury, vigorous action is necessary to do justice and to restore proper conditions. So this may be an important moment in time to bite through any obstacles to creating abundance for yourself and others in the world. Reformation, and I think that some of this is the Mars, North Node conjunction too, being able to just take action to be able to create that prosperity within your life and to create a peaceful experience for people within the world. I mean, this is something that I hope that all of you, I'm just going to say this, and I won't belabor this point, but I hope all of you understand that this channel is in support of peace and support of supporting people who are standing up for peace, for justice, in whatever form that is. I don't like making a lot of declarative political statements on this channel, but just because I'm not talking about it 24/7 doesn't mean that I don't believe in it and believe in the actions that are taking place to promote a peaceful experience for the most amount of people on this planet. I think that not the most, for everyone on this planet. Let's go for that. Everyone deserves peace. And I think that this is teaching us that we have to, take in the right type of nourishment. We have to work in service of not only ourselves, but our communities. And then we have to be able to do the hard work to bite through the obstructions to that peace, to that abundance, to that security. Everyone has basic needs. Taurus is really about securing basic needs. So if we think about this as how can we help others, this could be the beginning of working in humanitarian movements, being able to work and help provide resources to people who are in need right now. Those could be things that you could direct your energy towards. So breaking through some of the challenges to get to a place of peace and safety, and just basic safety. We have what I call peace privilege in the West, and that's not afforded to everyone, especially right now. And being able to take and speak up and do what we need to do to create that for everyone in the world is really important. All right. Ravana, thank you so much for your super sticker. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for your generosity. It says, thank you, Spencer, for engaging all our questions and providing us with intellectual nourishment. Oh, thanks you, Ravana. I hope that it is helpful and nourishing for you. I do my best. I do my best to make this a safe space and an oasis and a restorative place, rather than one that's, creating more stress or conflict for you. Jennifer says, prayers and safety for all those who are protesting. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, people exercising their right to free speech is important, and much of the messaging is towards helping to alleviate the suffering of innocent people. And I think that there is a way to do it peacefully, and hopefully there will be, safety and peace for those people, and that the message will be heard, and that there will be changes to be able to bring peace to those who are suffering. Ravana says, at Berkeley, the anti-war camp was thankfully has not faced violence. However, at our sister school, UCLA, they were violently attacked by counter-protesters and police landing people in the air. Yeah, again, that is one specific place, and I would encourage all of you not to let that particular situation discourage all of the wonderful, peaceful efforts that people are making to make change in their worlds. And I hope that everyone who is going out and sticking their neck out for peace is protected, and that they are able to have their own experience of making a difference in the world. And I hear you, and I think that we're in a really interesting time in history, and I think that we can all band together though, and denounce violence in all its forms, and that we can make a difference, and not just for one group of people or for another group of people, but for everyone who deserves human rights on this planet. Every single group deserves security and peace. So that's where I stand on those things, and I think that we'll just have to keep living into the answers. So I have an animal for you, friends. I have an animal guide spirit. It's the chipmunk. Look at his little mouth. It's full of peanut. It's like he's got his cheeks all stuffed. Talk about nourishment. These little guys they're active. They are little busybodies. They're little speedy dudes, and they are very confident. So this talks about quick decisions, being flexible in the direction that you're going, storing up food for the winter. This is an important time period to plant your seeds so that you are able to create future abundance, to gather up the resources that you need, so that if times of scarcity do happen, and it's possible. I mean, there's some instability in the world right now, and at any point things could change to the point where the things that we normally are used to aren't available. So this could be an important time for gathering the resources that we need within reason, right? This isn't the time to go out and clear your Costco of all the toilet paper rolls. I think that it's important to be prepared, but it's also important to be balanced about those things. And but I do think that there are times in our life where the conditions for creating fertility are supported. And I think that this Taurus new moon is one of those where when we take actions in support of future abundance, we could really set ourselves up for a good future. And the chipmunk is teaching us that. It's teaching us to gather the things that we need to get busy. Maybe not to talk as much as do, You know, look at, he's not gonna be doing a lot of talking with that mouthful of food, like right. So sometimes we just need to let our actions do the talking and get to work, and that could be what we're doing here, while taking the time to relax when we need to relax. Okay, let's see here. Ravana says, we are holding a meeting on striking in an hour as grad students, as university did nothing to protect their students. Oh my goodness, Ravana, are you in, where are you at again? You're in Berkeley? Oh, lots going on, huh? These are wild times. These are transformative times. So I wish you good luck and safety in your efforts, and hopefully we'll be able to bring peace to all of the people that are suffering in the world right now. Julian says, oh, cute. Yes, definitely. So cute. It is a cute animal and a wise teacher. All right, my friends. That is what I have for you today. I wish you the best of luck at this new moon. I hope that you're having a wonderful Taurus season. If you are out on the front lines of whatever, I hope that you're staying safe and that your efforts are rewarded with peace. And I care about all of you, and I hope that you're doing well. And yeah, I enjoy this community. And again, I hope that this is a safe space for everyone to be themselves, and for us to kind of find peaceful, centered solutions to the challenges that we're all facing in life. And just appreciate all of you. Okay, Ravana says, yes, I'm a grad student at UC Berkeley in anthropology. Thank you. Oh, good. That's awesome. Well, good luck with your studies and with the great work that you're doing over there. And Julene says, have a great weekend. Nice to see you, Julene. Thank you, Tracy. All right, my friends. That's going to do it for me today. Appreciate all of you. Take it easy. Remember to just relax in addition to doing the hard work. Take time outs every once in a while if you need it, without completely burying your head in the sand. And we'll get through this time period together, and hopefully better for it. All right, my friends, that's what I've got for you. Take care, and I will see you the next time. Be kind to one another. Be kind to yourself. I'll see you next time, friends. Peace.